will continue to provide weapons to Ukraine, but he is calling for a congressional briefing as to why they were ever paused at all. Curtis took to X to say the pause caught allies and members of Congress off guard. He added that deterrence works, and he will continue to support efforts that send a signal to other countries that America keeps its commitments. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 47 points. We're at 44,288. Coming up, we've got a hot one on tap for today. KSL Weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:02. A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM. Andy, my husband, and I had Bedrock Quartz redo 3 bathrooms for us, 2 in the old house and 1 in the new house. And I loved working with them for so many reasons. One of which is that they're like a 4-generation family-owned business here in Utah that has been installing countertops and making beautiful kitchens and bathrooms for years and years.
Well, at my house, I suffer from what's called paralysis of choice. When you've got something as wide-ranging with the different types of counters that they offer with quartz, quartzite, like I didn't even know what the difference between those things are. I'm going to need that kind of help when I go through the process.
Oh, they have wonderful designers. Plus, when you go in their showrooms, it's super easy. At station number 1, you select your color and your material. Then you go to station number 2. And you pick out your backsplash, and then you go to number 3, and you select your faucets. It's so easy to do.
They've got what's called employee pricing for everyone. This is the first time they've ever offered this.
For the month of July through August, everyone gets the friends and family discount.
They've got 9 locations near you from Layton to St. George, including a new one in Salt Lake City. BedrockQuartz.com. That's BedrockQuartz.com.
Hey there, it's Julie from Logan, where we know how to celebrate summer. First, something super cool when it's really hot. Logan has a new plaza downtown with music and games and a splash pad for kids. Well, I said kids, but hey, we don't judge. Jump in. Free Alive After 5 concerts and movies at the plaza Wednesday and Friday nights. Check out the calendar at explorelogan.com. Keep it cool by checking out live tribute concerts like the Monkees, Elton John's The Rocket Man Show, and the Neil Diamond Experience. If theater is more your style, see the musical Bright Star, Broadway's The Prince of Egypt, or the classic comedy The Importance of Being Earnest. After all, Logan is Utah's heart of the arts. Fresh mountain air is only 10 minutes from your hotel. Enjoy cooler temperatures in the canyon while you hike, mountain bike, picnic, fish, or sing yodelay-hee-hoo at the top of your lungs. Everything's cooler in Logan, and we've got a lot going on. Check out the calendar at explorelogan.com. explorelogan.com.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. Stroke risk may increase. Eliquis can cause serious and potentially fatal bleeding. Don't take if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or bleed longer. A spinal injection increases blood clot risk, which may cause paralysis. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or bruising, or back pain, tingling, numbness, muscle weakness, or incontinence. Aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. And here's Heather Kelly.
We do have delays northbound I-15 as you try to get over the point of the mountain toward Bangerter Highway. And then again, you'll see some brake lights from the Spaghetti Bowl into downtown Salt Lake. There's also unusual slowdowns southbound I-15 between 123rd and Bangerter Highway, where a lot of people are trying to merge onto the freeway at the moment, but no accidents reported. Building your dream home, Camson Electric specializes in custom homes with precision, quality, and clean design. From concept to completion, we power it all. Visit CamsonElectric.com to bring your vision to light. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today's high expected to hit 100 degrees. Tomorrow we cool off to a high of 89 before we're back to the 90s. Right now it's 84 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Good morning. Utah is now ranked the 9th most expensive housing state in the nation. This is a little bit surprising to me, Holly, but a new report from the University of Utah's Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute shows that even though prices budged just a little bit over the last couple of years, in fact, they took a dip in 23, we still are one of the most expensive housing markets in the country, and we're 9th right now.
It's kind of surprising, except that we've been talking about this a lot, right? I mean, affordable housing is a huge issue for the current administration with Governor Cox and Lieutenant Governor Henderson. It just is something where it's just, I think like the report said, it's not even budging.
Right. There's some metrics that are used nationally to help understand sort of the affordability of a house. And what is this? You look at the price of the house against your annual income.
Right.
And ideally, of course, the lower the number, the better, obviously. But nationally, they say that a ratio of 2.6 is about right. If you get it much above that, you're in trouble. You get below that, you're in great shape. So if you have a 2.6, let's say your combined income is $300,000, and that means a house in the $780,000 range would be 2.6, which is great. So Salt Lake and Washington counties, that ratio is over 5.1. In other words, it's double. It's double what is suggested as a safe sort of pricing structure. And so they say that in Salt Lake and Washington counties, purchasing a house is severely unaffordable. In Weber, Davis, and Utah counties, in other words, we're all across the Wasatch Front except for Washington County, it's seriously unaffordable, which is in the 4+ range, 4 to 5 range. So
still significantly more than it should be.
Right. So they say that really if you're above 5.0, they call it unaffordable. Right. People just can't afford to buy a house in that range. Of course, some people don't have a choice, but they're really stretched.
Well, right. You see that sometimes, right? Your house poor, people will say, because your mortgage payment is so high, or your housing payment, whatever it is, that you really struggle then to put food on the table or to put gas in your car to get to your job that helps you pay for the house that is probably more than you can afford.
Yeah. KSL News Radio's Don Brinkerhoff chimed in about that earlier.
The report shows the median price for a house right now is just less than $548,000. Russell Fawcett with the Stern team by Omada Real Estate says we can blame part of that cost on our economy.
For 18 years in a row, Utah's been ranked first in the Rich States, Poor States Economic Competitiveness Index. So for 18 years, we've been the top state economically.
He says the state can continually have that top ranking without housing prices eventually catching up, but he says housing prices have come down a little bit. Just a couple of years ago, the median price was nearly $600,000. Don Brinkerhoff, KSL News Radio.
$600,000 is the median price, and it's dropped a little bit to $548. It's still very, very high.
Right.
And that number has, if I'm doing the math correctly, if I go back 10 years and I look at what the value of homes have gone up each year in Utah, the value of a home would have doubled in about 10 years if you look at each year. Now, nationally, those numbers are less. They're about half of what's going on in Utah. Of course, the year that it went down, 2023, Utah's market went down more than nationally they did. But still, our housing prices here in Utah have done very, very well as opposed,
right.
Remember,
we had a bubble in 2008, and then people found that they had maybe spent more than their houses were actually worth, but that market readjusted, and now people are like us, right? We've talked about before, we've been in our houses for a few years. We have a low interest rate, and the home value has increased a lot, so not a lot of us are moving out either.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember this, but it looks like in 2020, 2021, and 2022, the value of a house, the price change of a house, median price change, was double digits all 3 of those years. It was in the 20% in 2021. So house prices have gone nuts. And so Utah is obviously trying to struggle with what to do about this. High-density housing is always an issue, although sort of not in my home, not in my
Right.
backyard. People are always like, well, I don't know if we really want to go
Right.
down that road, but sometimes you may not have a choice.
Right. Well, one of the things from this Kimsey Gardner report is that high density units, so condos, townhomes, twin homes, they accounted for 28% of all existing residential sales and 28% of residential construction in 2024. So even with some resistance on the local level, you're seeing a lot more of these being constructed. And I think the conversation is changing about, does this qualify as a starter home if it's a twin home or a part of a condo, right? And that we can see that has been changing.
And if we're looking at building permits, building new houses, 3 of the top 5 cities in the state are in Utah County.
Yeah, where I live.
Eagle Mountain, Saratoga Springs, and Lehigh all are 3 of the 5 most aggressive cities in terms of issuing building permits in 2024. So there's a lot going on there. And we've talked about this a dozen times. The Wasatch Front has a fixed size.
That's right.
I mean, it's not getting any bigger. And Salt Lake County is a perfect example of that. There just aren't a lot of places to build anymore in Salt Lake County, although there was some substantial growth in Salt Lake County, meaning that they're clearing out some areas. And of course, there's going to be a lot of building down by where the point of the mountain, where the prison used to be.
Well, and remember, we had a conversation recently about the ball field on, 13th South?
Right.
That they're going to put housing units in there as well, right?
Yeah, and they said something like
450?
300 or 400, which
is a lot.
It's hard to imagine.
It's multifamily dwelling.
Yeah, it'd have to be high-rise or multifamily or something like that, because you're talking about, they were talking about literally the parking lot on the north side of the thing.
Right.
How you could put 400 units there without going multiple stories up. But no surprise that the Wasatch Front is getting seriously and severely unaffordable. Washington County, St. George area, that's another area of the state that we always expect.
Yeah, it's become certainly not only a place for maybe retirees who want to leave the snow to go down. I know that there's a lot of Airbnb type homes down there where people will use them as short-term rentals. But yeah, there's land down there where they can increase. And of course, always the conversation has got to be, well, what do you do about water, right? How do you get the infrastructure there to have that? But again, this Kimsey Gardner report, one of the things that they point out is the sales of existing homes and listings actually increased in 2024. They've gone back to pre-COVID levels. I think this year we're starting to see some change. We're seeing some information that people are pulling their homes off the market rather than drop the price. It's like, okay, fine. If I can't sell at this price, I don't want to sell at all. But there's some definite headwinds, right? And we'll talk about more of those in the show as we go along.
That's right. And just before we break, the 2025 forecast is for a little bit slower growth, a little bit less than what we've seen, but there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot going on in our country right now that's caused this tremendous uncertainty. Let's stay on this topic when we come back after the break. What needs to change in Utah? And we will continue this conversation about housing with Russell Fawcett from the Stern team from Omada Real Estate when we come back.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. I want you to know that it's the little things that count. Any remodeler can say they treat customers right when it comes to siding, gutters, windows, and exteriors. It's hard to know for sure. If a contractor uses cheap generic nails instead of super grippy ridge shaft nails for your siding, would you even know? If they use cheap $4 caulk to install your new windows instead of paying $9 a tube for the good stuff, could you tell by looking? It all comes down to the details and trust. At RGS Exteriors, we only do things one way, the right way. We never cut corners. We never skimp on details. We never do less than the job requires. That's why we offer our industry's exclusive 10-year everything guarantee. And it's why we have the happiest customers. If you need any gutters, siding, or replacement windows, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit rgsutah.com. That's 801-280-3110 or online at rgsutah.com.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. The pounds melt off. It's amazing.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself.
Get in the best shape of your life with Soda Weight Loss.
Just 3 weeks in, and pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Summer is right around the corner.
Your summer body starts right here because Soda's summer savings are on.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I tried other things, came to Soda, just amazing.
I started on Soda 8 months ago, and I have released 80 pounds now.
Summer savings, stunning results, only at Soda Weight Loss. Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Amanda, we love talking about Utah Community Credit Union, and guess what? They just got news that they saved their members over $40 million in 2024 alone.
And UCCU is opening 4 new branches in the Salt Lake Valley, which means 6 total now. They have 21st South, Taylorsville, Sandy, Magna, Harriman, and Draper.
And to celebrate these new branches, UCCU is offering some amazing opportunities. First of all, $150 cash just for setting up direct deposit with your UCCU account.
They'll give you up to $250 cash just for transferring any existing loan from another institution to UCCU.
And here's the big one, giving away 10 amazing prizes, including, get this, a brand new 2025 Jeep Wrangler.
So you heard that right. A brand new Jeep Wrangler could be yours, and no purchase is necessary. You don't even have to be a member.
Anyone can enter. It's easy. All you've got to do is go to uccu.com and sign up. So enter to win today.
UCCU.com. Find out more about Utah Community Credit Union, where you're going to love where you bank.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
Why'd I go to the doctor? One day at the firehouse, I was so lightheaded I could barely stand. Even my crew noticed. Getting checked out was the right call. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit NoTimeToWait.com, sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
We've been talking about the fact that Utah is now ranked the 9th most expensive housing state in the nation. And when we compare, Holly, the house prices versus income, we've got some counties in Utah that are really unaffordable, including Salt Lake and Washington counties, where house prices versus income is over 5 to 1. They recommend something in the range of 2.5%, 2.6%.
Yeah.
We're at 5, and Weber, Davis, and Utah counties are over 4, between 4 and 5 times the value of the house versus your annual income.
Right.
The price of the house, I should say. And those numbers seem to have been getting worse and worse. Although, I mean, to those of us that own homes, I guess it's sort of better and better. But
good news,
people that are trying to buy a house.
Yeah.
Or selling a house might be good right now. But the numbers have dipped a little bit. The last couple of years, house values have they dropped in 2023 here in Utah and nationally, came back up a little bit in 2024. But if you look at about the last 2.5, 3 years, they've remained fairly constant as a whole.
Yeah, I have a question about how the market has changed, and we're actually lucky to have with us Russell Fawcett, the owner of the Stern team of Amada Real Estate, on the line with us to answer some of those questions. Welcome, Russell.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, you bet. One of my questions is we talked about a little bit about a drop in housing prices, but they've been really stable the last couple of years. But I remember a time I was not in the market either to sell or to buy at the time, but I remember there seemed to be like this almost, it certainly was a seller's market, like people were outbidding each other and they were going over list price. That's not the case today, is it?
It still happens, but it's more rare. So we are still seeing it in some of the lower priced homes. So if you are the lowest price and you're in the best condition, you could still see a bidding war, but we're not seeing the bidding wars of, 2022, 2021, when people were offering 50, 60,000 above list price, covering the appraisal gaps. That we're not seeing anymore.
Russell, for our listeners along the Wasatch Front, and I'm talking about Utah, Salt Lake, Davis, Weber counties, and maybe even out to Tooele, are there areas, not necessarily counties in that group, but areas in that group that are hot right now, where we're seeing housing prices continue to go up?
Really, what we're seeing is a pretty flat market across the board. You'll have pockets, certain neighborhoods that, are a little bit more higher demand, that homes will still move fairly quickly. But on the price side, we're settling into what I would call a little bit more normal appreciation, just because our interest rates, although they feel high, they've been about the same going back to now, the last couple of years. And so we are seeing a little bit of stability come to the market, even though it feels like it's this, really depressed market, when we're really getting what I call, we're working back towards normal.
Yeah, it seems like that might be the case. So what needs to change in Utah to allow for more housing, especially if we're like bounded by mountains?
Yeah. So that's when, I say we need to go to the drawing board and talk about really all options, right? So if we're talking about affordability, are there, especially for our first-time home buyers, can we look at grants? Can we look at maybe sweat equity projects or different things, right? We have to start looking at that. And then if we're talking about more housing, are there incentives to builders? Do you incentivize maybe a product? I say, there's not a lot of your, 1,600 square foot, so 800 main level, 800 basement bungalows being built anymore. Do you build homes without garages? There's things that we need to start looking at to be able to build a more affordable product so people can buy their first home and get in and start playing the equity game. Because once they're able to buy that first one, they can live in it for 5-7 years, sell it, and then have a down payment for the next home. And then probably the next one I would say is, as much as probably none of us love it, we're bound by the mountains. We may have to start building up. Do we look at high-rise condos and apartments and start building up?
Russell, when we bought our first home, 45 years ago, we were tickled to get interest rate at 11%. We thought that was a great thing. And then a couple of years ago, we refinanced it. We were like at 2.1%. The numbers right now are sort of in between that. What do you tell buyers? What do you advise buyers when they're looking at financing? Are there, and I don't want to call it any specific lending institutions, obviously, but what should they be looking for?
Yeah, really what we're looking at is, we work with lending professionals to find the best product for them. So we do look to see if there's any grants available. We look at, sometimes maybe waiting a couple months and working on your credit to qualify for a lower interest rate. But what we're looking at is we really just want to get into the idea of what can you afford today? And then, let's go out and look and shop based off of that. And we also have to educate that the days of correct me if I'm wrong, but like in the last 40 years, I know, but in the last 40 years, we only saw the 3% one time.
Right.
And that was driven by a global pandemic and COVID. Like 3% is not coming back. And if it does, it means there's probably other outside factors that we don't like. And so for me, it's kind of like, no, the 6s, that is normal. That's average. If you look at the last, 20, 30 years, that's what it's going to be. And our prices are 100% driven by demand. And so although they feel high for most people, there are people out there that are buying every single day that are qualifying for those loans. And so our prices are being held up partially because of how good our state is. We're ranked number 1 by U.S. News. Our economy is great. Our fiscal stability is great. Our healthcare is great. Our education's great. And so people are wanting to move to Utah. And that's causing, our prices to hold steady, which at the end of the day, we need to look at like, okay, what can we do to get wages to catch up with for some of the people that maybe have been here long term that aren't coming into, maybe driven by tech where wages are a little bit higher. Is there something that we can do to get wages up for, some of the people that can't afford the homes?
Yeah. We've been speaking with Russell Fawcett, the owner of the Stern team of Amada Real Estate. I have one other question for you for sellers. So if sellers are thinking of putting their home on the market this summer, what can you tell them for time on the market? What can they anticipate right now?
Yeah. So if we just speak to averages, so the average days on market right now is about 55 days. And so that's from the time they go on the market to the time they get a buyer to go under contract. So about 55 days. And as sellers, I would tell you don't overprice, because if you go in testing the market to overprice, your home is going to sit, and eventually buyers are going to say, what's wrong with your home? And they're going to want to negotiate more. So instead, make sure you prep your home, go out at a competitive price, and then you can expect, closer to the 30 to 60 days as opposed to having to wait longer to sell your home.
To me, Russell, 55 days seems pretty modest. I mean, that doesn't seem bad. Just giving historical numbers. And I know we kind of got spoiled thinking we could have a house on the market for two or 3 weeks.
Could get a bidding war.
I use the analogy of we ran downhill for, about 3 years where we were just moving, everything was going, we were going downhill. We're now hit the average. We're in a balanced market, meaning 4 to 6 months worth of inventory. We're about 2 months days on market, which is average. We're at 6% interest rates, which is average. So we've now hit a flat ground. But if you've ever ran and you've ran downhill and then hit flat, you feel like you're going uphill. and that's where we're at in the market today, is we're on flat ground.
Well, thank you for joining us. We've been listening to Russell Fawcett, the owner of the Stern team of Amada Real Estate. And, you can learn your home's true value in 30 seconds if you visit sternteam.com to find out more.
Always interesting to get information about housing, and even if you're not looking around, we're sort of always looking around.
Right?
You're always looking at other houses and wondering what your own house is worth. When we come back after the break, a majority of Americans believe that immigrants to the United States increase crime. Actual data says they're wrong. We'll talk about that when we come back.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story: Saratoga Springs residents are concerned about noise and privacy from drive-through businesses in their backyards. KSL News Radio's Brianna Willis has more.
When residents moved into the area, they knew that property behind them would be commercially developed, but were alarmed to see the ground built up to the point the windows are level with the top of their fence. Residents say the majority of the buildings are drive-thrus, and they're worried noise from the cars and speakers will filter into their properties at all hours. That, combined with the light, makes them worried their home values have dropped.
Developers and city officials say they are following all regulations and have promised to build a 6-foot vinyl fence on top of a retaining wall for privacy. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Former President Joe Biden's White House doctor pleaded the Fifth today, refusing to answer questions posed by a House committee that is now formally investigating Biden's health while in office. ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy.
His attorney says the former president's physician cited 2 bases for refusing to answer lawmakers' questions: doctor-patient confidentiality and the Fifth Amendment's protection against self-incrimination. House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer.
What Dr. O'Connor did today only added fuel to the fire, that there was a cover-up.
But the panel's vice-ranking member, Texas Democrat Jasmine Crockett, said Kevin O'Connor should never have been expected to violate his patient's privacy.
There at least was one person in the room that understands what an oath is, and that was the doctor.
Stephen Portnoy, ABC News, Washington.
Your money at this moment. The Dow right now is up 70 points. That's just shy of 0.2%. We're at 44,311. Coming up, we've got a hot one today, up to 100 degrees, but then slightly cooler temperatures. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:31.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Well, it's officially summer, and whatever you have planned for the summertime months in the great state of Utah, it can be made better with a stop at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Say, for example, you're heading up into the mountains, going to do a little hiking, a little shopping at the outlet stores, whatever it might be. How about wrapping up a perfect day with that perfect meal that waits for you at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse at Hotel Park City? And of course, all of the things to do here along the Wasatch Front, especially in the capital city, whether it's a play, maybe a concert, some sporting event, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse is waiting for you at 275 South West Temple, where your entree will be perfectly prepared. I love the ribeye steak, and it is always cooked to perfection. The side dishes, the desserts, just the way you're treated, the way the servers take care of you. You're going to love your dining experience this summer at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse.
Do you know how to tell if a clogged drain is something to worry about or not? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I understand it's annoying and inconvenient, but sometimes a clogged drain can be a sign there's a more serious issue with your sewer main line. If the drains in the lowest level of your home aren't draining, or you flush a toilet and it comes up somewhere else like a shower or a floor drain, I'm urging you to look at this as more than just an annoyance. The last thing I want you to experience is a sewer backup. If you're a homeowner experiencing any of these issues, the first step would be to snake the line to see if it's just a blockage, which one of our drain techs can do for only $29. Yep, you heard that right. Any Hour Services will snake any drain line with normal access for only $29. Sinks, showers, tubs, toilets, floor drains, laundry drains, even that sewer main line that connects to the city. We'll snake any line for just $29. For help with your drain issues, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7700. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
70 years ago, our founders knew why community mattered. And at Deseret First Credit Union, we've spent 7 decades showing how. From your first savings account to your dream home, we've been right by your side. This year, we're celebrating 70 incredible years of trust and service. Because at Deseret First, our legacy is built around you. Visit dfcu.com to learn more and join the celebration.
The power of we believes in you. It advocates for you. It completes your circle. It makes sure you have the strongest circle possible. And with Intermountain Health in yours, you'll always have the care you need to live the healthiest life possible. That's the power of we. Intermountain Health.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. And here's Heather Kelly.
It was just a smidgen of slowing right now northbound I-15 as you come off the point of the mountain from Bluffdale to Bangerter Highway, and then again right around 3300 south. Most of this is just merging issues as you get a few cars on the roadway. Now, if you're southbound I-15 in Davis County, we do have the lane restrictions in place again today, and that's right around where the old Shepherd Lane Bridge was, and so that's slowing you down coming out of Kaysville into Farmington, but everybody else is traveling at speed. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today's high expected to hit 100 degrees. Tomorrow we cool down 89 for a high tomorrow, 90 on Friday, before we're back up in the mid-90s for the weekend and into next week. Right now it's 86 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
You know, Holly, it's an interesting story and an interesting study that's been done, but a lot of Americans think that immigrants to the United States increase crime. And in fact, a lot of our politicians have said, you know, we're bringing in these people who commit these violent crimes.
Right.
That's why they're coming here. But in fact, studies have shown that they're actually more likely to be victimized by crime. And in fact, some of them flee their countries because of crime.
Yeah, that's right. And it's, the data, you can have a feeling, but that doesn't mean that it's accurate, right? So when the Associated Press surveyed people, they found the majority of Americans, 57%, but 85% of Republicans, they felt like having a large number of migrants led to more crime. But the actual numbers just don't support that. And that information goes back decades.
Yeah, so we're lucky to be joined this morning by Jacob Hess from the Deseret News, who wrote an article about this and gave some really interesting stats. Jacob, thanks for joining us this morning.
Hi, Greg. Hi, Holly.
Hi.
So tell us about your article and what you were looking at and what you found generally.
Yeah, I mean, it surprised me, honestly. I hear the same messaging about, crime is increasing because of this. What surprised me most is I really looked to find evidence for this because I was just like, is this true? And I couldn't find anything. Like usually you find like there's a few studies on one side and a study on the other. I couldn't find anything. I've asked readers to send me anything if they found it. And this is not like a subtle finding. The University of Wisconsin found that immigrants were 2 times less likely to be arrested for violent crime, 2.5 times less likely to be arrested for drug crimes, 4 times less likely to be arrested for property crimes. And as Holly mentioned, there's 60 years of data going back showing and it makes sense when you think about it. They're incentivized to be on good behavior because they want to stay, right?
Yeah, that's
so
right.
So this is it's really clear, and it led me to Thomas Jefferson, because Thomas Jefferson says an educated democracy depends on an educated population. So, that's the role of journalism. We need to seek truth, even if it's unpolitically correct.
So can you tell us some of the findings that you looked at with people who are here without documentation? So I think the lines between legal and illegal entry into the country have blurred because some people have done it the right way and they're still being caught up in ICE. But what did you find with people who were here maybe without documentation?
Well, undocumented migrants are also less likely to commit crime. They have the same incentives. But when it comes to victimization, it gets more complicated. Established immigrants are who've been here for a while, know the language. They are significantly less likely to be victims of various crimes. But those who are just recently arrived, who haven't yet learned the language, who are undocumented, it's just the opposite. There's growing evidence that there's greater risk for victimization. Perpetrators target them because they're scared to go to authorities. They're scared to get help. They're vulnerable. And of course, many of these have arrived from situations that were violent in the first place. Half of migrants, according to the United Nations, were forcibly displaced with violence, and a third have been tortured. So, this data should matter to our public conversation about immigration.
Yeah, and just in my own experience, Jacob, practicing law as both a prosecutor and defense attorney, a lot of people don't realize, and maybe some people aren't particularly sympathetic to the fact that if you're here as a documented or an undocumented resident and you commit a crime, in addition to the penalties that everyone else suffers, you could very well be taken into custody and deported. So that makes a lot of sense when you say that perhaps the crime rate among certain immigrants is actually less, because the punishment it has that additional hook. It has that additional punishment that a lot of people, that you and I and Holly, don't have to suffer. That obviously, well, to me, contributes to these statistics you're talking about here today, Jacob.
For sure, I think that's the best explanation for why they're I mean, they're still probably tempted to commit crime like all human beings, but they're really, really trying to be on good behavior, many of them. Of course, it's not true for all of them, and some of the cases where immigrants do commit crimes get held up as evidence, like, look at this. But we have to look at all the data. I mean, if we're having an honest public conversation, we have to actually look at the trends.
Yeah. So one of the things that I experienced as a legislator, and this is a personal story that helped inform my view of immigration. We this would have been the 2011 legislative year, but we were talking about immigration that year as well, and I heard stories that were just horrifying, where people were playing catch the Mexican with pit bulls in orchards at night, and they would not report it because of just what you're saying. They were afraid that they would be deported. They were trying to support their families, but it's things like that. And in fact, sometime during that time period, there was a construction worker who fell at the job site and was injured. They maybe could have saved his life if people had called 911, but they didn't because they were afraid, again, of additional legal consequences. And so there's some real consequences to people out there who really are trying to keep their nose clean, but they can become victimized. And you shared a story in your article about a woman who was victimized after she got here. Could you share that just briefly?
Yeah, she was victimized and was scared to go to authorities. Her perpetrator eventually got her deported. And you're highlighting one of the biggest problems in the undocumented research on victimization, because we don't know how many of them are actually being victimized without saying anything. So the numbers could be higher. But I also want to make clear this isn't an anti-Trump message. Like this data is not like a pro-illegal, pro-amnesty message. The biggest surprise has been the response to this. How many people just can't seem to stomach the idea that the data goes against this popular political messaging? And I wish that truth could be a common ground. Like, can we just come together and say what's true, and then decide on the politics? And some people have just been mad, and I get the emails because it contradicts what they've been told, and I wish it was like, well, can we just agree, whatever you feel about the administration, that truth should matter? Let's come together on that.
Good point. That was Jacob Hess with the Deseret News, who joined us this morning talking about an article, a really interesting article that he wrote. But it only takes one, Holly. In a political year, you have a situation where there's a violent crime committed by an undocumented immigrant, I should say, and it hits the news, and pretty soon we can say,
it becomes the narrative.
Yeah,
right?
if we could close the borders, we wouldn't have that problem, and that becomes the face of a political conversation,
right?
And America is believing that people are here undocumented or committing crime at a higher rate. According to what we're learning, that's not necessarily true.
It's not true.
Yeah, interesting. When we come back after the break, we're watching some footage right now. There has been an update this morning on the floods in Texas and now at New Mexico. When we come back after the break, we'll give you an update on where we are.
I'm Utah Tax Attorney Jordan Wilcox. Listen to what actual clients have had to say about working with us.
I'm Paul. I'm a contractor. I had a tax problem that was pretty significant. Needed some help with the IRS. I had prepared my taxes for a few years, but when I went to file them, I didn't have any money to pay those taxes. And so I just filed the returns in my drawer and went about my business. And about 3 years went by when I did that, and pretty soon I owed $102,000. And I met with Jordan, and we talked about the hole I dug myself into. And from start to finish, the process was encouraging, supportive, saved me about $80,000, $102,000 to $22,000. No complaints.
Hi, I'm Jordan Wilcox. You need a tax attorney that's not afraid to fight for you. Schedule your free consultation today. Visit endtaxworry.com.
The relief is immeasurable.
Don't wait. End your nightmare. Your relief starts at endtaxworry.com.
At KSL News Radio, we have a 30-year legacy of honoring Utah teachers, but we can't do it without your help. Please tell us about an important teacher in your life on the KSL Teacher Tribute Wall, presented by Cypress Credit Union. Each month, one lucky teacher wins a $500 gift card from Cypress Credit Union, a $250 gift card to Harmon's, plus season tickets to Hale Center Theater. Say thanks to your teacher today at kslnewsradio.com/teacher from Cypress Credit Union and KSL News Radio.
Why'd I go to the doctor? One day at the firehouse, I was so lightheaded I could barely stand. Even my crew noticed. Getting checked out was the right call. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit NoTimeToWait.com, sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
When you bundle renters and auto with Progressive, you can save while protecting your most valuable possessions, like your priceless vinyl collection. Sure, you sleep on a futon because the money most people would have spent on a bed you spent on more records. But forget the fact that you can stream just about any song ever created for a few dollars a month. No, you need to listen to music in the most difficult way possible. So go ahead and get Progressive so you can save while protecting the things that matter to you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
Discover the timeless value at Duke's Jewelers, a local treasure since 1948. Whether you're searching for a unique engagement ring or need expert watch repair, Duke's has been serving the community for over 75 years. It's the perfect time to visit and explore the wide selection of custom designs and quality gemstones. The skilled designers at Duke's can bring your dream piece to life, while experienced jewelers handle repairs and modifications in-house. Duke's Jewelers takes pride in value pricing, ensuring you receive the best prices every day. Need an appraisal? The Duke's Jewelers AGS certified gemologist is here to help. Whether it's hand or machine engraving or redesigning old favorites into something new, get personalized service for every occasion. Visit Duke's Jewelers and experience the difference of locally operated expertise and dedication. Duke's Jewelers in Springfield, Utah.
If you're a medical, wellness, or aesthetics practice owner who wants to enhance your profits and practice valuation while reducing your workload, this is a message you'll want to hear. The Hamlin Business Institute is holding the most transformative business class you'll ever take on Friday, August 1st in Salt Lake City. As a practice owner, this class can literally change your life and revolutionize your practice. With a 5-star Google review rating and certification by the DOPL for select professions, this class is meticulously crafted to meet your specific needs. Their previous participants rave about their experience. A staggering 96% are interested in additional classes from Hamlin Business Institute. 100% would recommend this class, and more than 3/4 said it was the most beneficial continuing education class they have ever taken. Sign up before July 20th and get a 40% discount with the code BUSINESS at HamlinBusinessInstitute.com. That's code BUSINESS at HamlinBusinessInstitute.com. Code BUSINESS at HamlinBusinessInstitute.com.
Celebrate the red, white, and beautiful during the 4th of July sale at Scandinavian Designs Furniture with up to 50% off. Visit the showrooms in Ogden or Murray or shop online at ScandinavianDesigns.com.
Thinking about retirement? Make sure a My Social Security account is a part of your plan. A My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal earnings history and benefit status. You can find out if you're eligible to receive benefits, compare retirement benefit estimates at different ages or dates, view spousal benefit estimates, and more. Plan for your future. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Inside Sources.
We're following up on a story that's really dominated our news over the last several days, Holly, and that was a storm that started in Texas, central Texas, around the July 4th weekend, in fact, on July 4th. And this storm was such that the rains came and increased the level of the river there, the Guadalupe River, by something like 26 feet. Now, that's almost impossible to imagine.
Right, with the wave going up to 50 feet.
Right. And so I mean, the carnage that it caused, then it's caused a loss of life. We've been watching a little bit this morning. Jonathan Lamb from the Kerrville Police Department spoke about what happened on the morning of the 4th.
And I want to start outside of Kerrville, out in Hunt. Now, for those of you who went out there yesterday with the governor, y'all know that Highway 39 crisscrosses the Guadalupe again and again and again. And all of those low water crossings, when they flood, they create islands where you can't get in and you can't get out, trapping people in their homes, trapping people in vehicles. And that's what happened on the morning of July 4th.
That's got to be awful, especially if you're trapped on one of those islands, because you're watching the water rise. And that was the Kerrville Police Department. So Kerr County seems to be the county that was hit the hardest in this area. That's the county where the Mystic
Camp Mystic,
Mystic was as well. Even now, there are 161 people missing in Kerr County. I think that the death toll in that county alone is substantially high as well. But we've been talking about a lot of counties in that central region of Texas dealing with this, and it's subsided and the river is down, and now it's become more of just a recovery mission.
Yeah.
It's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, I mean, some of the news that I've seen is they have people on horseback now that are trying to get to locations that people on vehicles couldn't get to. They're also using air support to try and locate people. But one of the things that we've learned about the mess and the cleanup that's going to have to happen is that as this flooding happened, it was uprooting trees and debris and rocks, and that has all stacked up and piled. And sadly, there are people that are still missing, a lot of people that are still missing, that it may be a long time before they're found.
Right, and the latest numbers that we received from Texas officials was from a press conference this morning.
Adults, there's 59, unidentified 14. Children, 36, unidentified 13. Camp Mystic currently still has missing 5 campers and 1 counselor. Officials report there are 161 missing people in Kerr County area.
Wow. I mean, that, like you say, that's a recovery at this point.
Yeah.
And, a lot of the people are asking what happened. Why did this happen? What was going on? And when the sheriff of Kerr County was pressed by ABC's Matt Gutman, this is what he said.
The community here is asking these questions. What happened? When did it happen? Was the emergency manager awake at the time? Did they push the button to issue an emergency alert?
Sir, it's not that easy when you just push a button, okay? There's a lot more to that.
There's a conversation that's had. I understand. So did it happen, sir?
I can't tell you at this time.
Yeah, and hopefully we're not going down the blame game, but it's an unfortunate product of what we do these days.
Right, and one of the things I think that is clear is that people will have another conversation about what is the appropriate level of warning and what happens when you get warning fatigue, right? Where people just, like, they may see a warning, but they don't pay attention to it. Or maybe they elevate the warning system and now they have sirens in place, but you're still in an area where the sound's not going to reach you.
Right. And it's tragic that there are still so many people missing, because especially if you were, well, no matter who you are, if it's a loved one and you don't know where they are, you can almost assume the worst, but you still want to recover them. You still want to.
You do.
And authorities seem to be, like you say, they're on horseback. They've got rafts. They've got people digging through rubble. I mean, just literally tearing fallen trees apart and looking under, and there are search dogs and things like that there too. But the authorities there in Texas seem to be doing a very good job trying to get this all sorted out. And I guess we'll deal with the fault part later. But right now, like you said, it's
one of the things too that we've learned is that the police department, the Kerr County Police Department, they were out early in the morning, literally knocking on people's doors, trying to get them to evacuate. So estimates from the Kerr County Police Department is that effort saved at least 200 lives because they were on the ground knocking on doors, telling people that this was coming.
Yeah, and we talked about this a lot yesterday, Holly. The notices can go out,
right?
But if you don't have cell service, how are you going to get it? If you're not awake at 1:45 when the first warning came out, what are you going to do?
Or if you've turned off that emergency notification so it's not blaring in your ear, right? If you said, I don't want to get these alerts.
Or if you're like me and you travel down to national parks and they say, oh, it's a flash flood week, and you're like, yeah, okay. When I see some clouds in the sky, I'll start worrying about it.
Yeah. Well, sadly, this weather is really causing havoc across the United States. So officials are continuing the cleanup, of course, in Texas. We've been talking about that. But New Mexico last night also saw severe flash flooding, swallowing entire homes.
The Rio Ruidoso River sweeping homes off their foundations. The river rising a record 20 feet in 30 minutes Tuesday. There were at least 85 water rescues as the search for the missing continues. A family swept into the raging floodwaters. The parents were found safe, but a 5-year-old and her 7-year-old brother did not survive.
That was ABC News chief meteorologist Ginger Z. I mean, 20 feet in 30 minutes. I mean, how do you even get out of it?
Incomprehensible.
Right. I mean, in Utah, especially,
right,
in the desert here, you can't imagine that. And the rainfall. I mean, you mentioned this yesterday. The storm they had in Texas was a 1,000-year storm, meaning it's there's a 1 in 1,000 chance you're going to get that.
Right.
But they had 2 back to back, and they had like 5 what they
once
call
in 500-year
storms.
Yeah,
I mean,
did.
these things were just off the charts. But I mean, if you think about even if a river rises a foot or two, the landscape that gets swamped by that is huge. 26 feet deep. I mean, it 20 feet in 30 minutes. I mean, it's a miracle there that the loss of life hasn't been significantly more. But we'll watch that closely as well. New Mexico, the Rio Ruidoso River took homes right off their foundations and rose 20 feet in 30 minutes.
And what's interesting about that one is the rainfall amount wasn't nearly as much as it was in Texas, but it hit a burn scar from previous wildfires, and so it caused the flooding just right away. There was nothing to stop it.
Yeah, and you can imagine that authorities in Texas and New Mexico are going to have to do some significant things now, not necessarily limited to the warning system, but to the floodplain, to the ecosystem, to try to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again. Because you can't say, okay, we just had our 1 in 1,000, we're good to go for a while.
For another 1,000 years.
For 1,000 years, it's not going to happen with what's happening with our climate right now. These kind of things should be more expected. Just like the wildfires in California, we've seen more and more of those than we've ever had in the past. These things are phenomena, Holly, that we're going to have to be dealing with more and more in the future.
And Utah has its own history of flash flooding and rain hitting burn scars because we have wildfires here too, and so it's an issue that's important, I think, for all of us to pay attention to and to be safe when even if it's your home, right? And I don't live in a floodplain, but there are places in Utah County that are definitely floodplains. If something's going to flood, it's going to take out a whole bunch of homes. And the river bottoms, there's a reason it's called that.
Yeah, and we live in an area that's really a fire hazard. I mean, you can just tell all the brush around it because of what they call open space up there in the region of the state that I live, which it's not parks and grass. It's
brush.
It's tall brush, and you think, boy, if that ever goes up, because it's brown as it could be right now, and you think if that goes up, it's going to be significant. And a lot of us have built these little fire breaks, but if there's a windstorm at all, a 10 or 15, 20-foot fire break's not going to do much. But we'll follow that New Mexico story more, and if we get updates during the show this morning on Texas, we'll bring you back with those as well. When we come back after the break, it's a favorite topic of Elon Musk, and we don't mean slashing budgets. It's the falling birth rate around the world, and Utah's not exempt. We'll talk about that when we come back.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story: a man is in custody after barricading himself in his home and shooting at officers in St. George. It started when police responded to a 911 call reporting shots fired. KSL TV reports when police got there, the man was in his home and started firing at officers.
To hear those officers that were taking direct fire, it's pretty concerning to us.
Fire Chief Robert Stoker says it was a couple of hours in that the house caught fire. The man came out and was arrested. The home is a total loss. We've been learning more about what happened in a Saratoga Springs home earlier this year when an 8-year-old was found dead and his mother critically injured. The family is speaking out on the tragedy, saying, quote, "Not a moment passes that we don't feel the weight of this unimaginable loss, and they are profoundly thankful for the outpouring of love and support." They are also urging anyone with details or information that could help with the investigation to come forward and contact the Saratoga Springs Police Department. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Ukrainian officials say Russia launched its largest aerial attack yet overnight.
We're seeing now every few days Russia mount these record-breaking attacks as they've dramatically increased the amount of drones that they're able to produce. And really, we're starting to see, I think, a new phase in the air war in Ukraine. Ukraine's air defenses are clearly under significant strain, which is why it is very significant that we are seeing perhaps now President Trump starting to shift his position on this war.
ABC's Patrick Reevell reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 88 points. We're at 44,328. Coming up, we'll have another hot one today. Highs around 100. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:02. Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
If you're ready to buy a home or sell a home and you're worried about the current real estate market because of what you've heard from some of your friends or family, well, we're here to tell you that you really shouldn't be worried because now is a great time to buy and sell with our friends at the Stern Team, powered by Almada Real Estate.
And here's why. Buyers have more options due to increased inventory, which gives them the power to negotiate for repairs, interest rate buy-downs, and closing cost assistance. While at the same time, sellers are still getting top dollar for their homes, with home values that are higher today than ever before. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, the current real estate market presents a win-win opportunity for both buyers and sellers.
But you still do want to make sure that you're working with a team of real estate experts you can trust that can get you some great results. And that's our friends at the Stern Team, powered by Almada Real Estate.
They have helped thousands of Salt Lake City homeowners, and they're ready to help you. To get started, just go to thesternteam.com. That's thesternteam.com, or Google The Stern Team.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you've got a gas-powered engine, keep it running like new at every fill-up. Stable in-season protection is your engine's preventative medicine, cleaning and protecting the entire fuel system in season. In outdoor power equipment, prevent gum and varnish buildup that could cause a rough or non-running engine. For cars and trucks, increase fuel efficiency and power by removing deposits, ensuring your engine's long-term health. Stable outperforms the competition in independent lab testing. So at every fill-up, start with Stable.
At Intermountain Health, we believe life is a circle. May yours surround you with insight, a healthy perspective, trust, and reassurance. The belief that our differences aren't that different, and compassion just when you need it most. Life is a circle. May yours help you live the healthiest life possible. Intermountain Health.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. And here is Heather Kelly.
Well, the good news is we don't have any accidents anywhere across the Wasatch Front or the Wasatch Back for that matter, but you may run into brake lights from time to time, especially northbound I-15 near the South Salt Lake area around 3300 South. You also occasionally have the delays on SR 36 due to lane restrictions heading up toward I-80 in Tooele County, and southbound I-15 from Kaysville to Farmington due to lane restrictions. No matter the weather, your feet can feel fantastic. Find the Good Feet location nearest you at goodfeet.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today's high expected to hit 100 degrees. Cooler tomorrow. Only a high of 89, 90 on Friday before we head back up to the mid-90s on the weekend. Right now it's 88 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
We've often thought, Holly, that the population of the planet is going to continue to grow and grow and grow exponentially, and that at some point we just won't be able to sustain this growth. But what we're hearing and learning is that in virtually every country now, in every culture, women are having fewer than half as many children as they did in the 1960s. And so if you think about it, if you want to maintain a population at a certain level, average woman would have 2 children. The actual number that science uses is 2.1 to take certain things into account. So, but we have, for about the last several decades, our fertility rate has dropped below that 2.1, and now after 2007, it's at a record low of 1.6 children per mother. You're not going to sustain. Yeah, you're not going to sustain your population, and it's not just in the United States. This is something that's happening. This is a phenomenon that's happening worldwide.
Yeah, and one of the things that's interesting to me is that it's not only is it worldwide. Like, we've been hearing about demographic winter for quite a while, and a demographic winter is when the demographics, the population of a country starts to collapse. And so in some countries, the birth rate is below 1 child per woman, and so we're seeing a significantly smaller number of babies being born. But this change is now being seen across the world in all countries and all cultures, whether it's poor developing countries, middle income countries, high income countries. To say that it has dropped in half in our lifetimes, basically, that's really. It's really interesting, but it's also concerning for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I wish we had an economist or someone here, because it's concerning on a number of levels that maybe I don't appreciate. If you think, well, we have too many people in the world, so maybe it's a good thing. But just what hits close to home for me personally is something as simple as Social Security.
That's right.
We used to have X number of people contributing to it.
I think it was 1 in 16. We just talked to Billy Hosterman
about
that.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and that number is now
16
down.
workers for every 1 retiree, and now it's like, I don't know, I
2 to 1 or something.
It's
a frightening number.
Yeah.
And the sustainability can't. If you think about jobs, if you think about not just paying into the Social Security and other systems, when we're filling jobs and we're filling roles, if we have a shrinking population, it's hard to continue at the pace we're doing. And so, what does that mean?
Right. AI, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Look, this is an issue that I've written about a number of times. So even countries like Japan, for example, we know Italy is one of the worst. And so if you have seen advertisements ever on social media that says, come buy an Italian villa for $1, they're actually serious, because so many of their people are not reproducing. They're not having kids. The kids, if they do have them, they're not staying in the country for sure. But one of the other countries that's really interesting is China. So if you remember, China has a huge population, but they had the one-child policy for a long time, and it was really brutal. They were killing babies post-birth, right before birth. I mean, it was just really awful. And then they realized that the numbers were not going to keep working for them, and so they reversed that policy. And what they found was the women of childbearing age were like, I'm sorry, I'm not interested. And one of the results of having one child is when you had a female child, if you raised one female child, you can imagine that she was pretty spoiled, right? She got what she wanted. There's a lot of documentation from China now to say that these girls who've now grown up into women, they're very focused on what they want to do. They want their career. They are not interested in having a husband, and they're not interested in having babies.
Right, and that's going to be a problem down the road. And they're not interested in giving up a career and doing the things that some people might expect if you want to populate the earth and keep having babies.
Yeah, it's also fertility rates. So you have a birth rate, right, the number of children being born, but you also have a decrease in fertility, the number of people who are able to get pregnant and continue that pregnancy to full term, right, to a birth. And that's a concern as well. It's, in fact, Melissa Carney, who's an economist from the University of Notre Dame, she says it's not that people don't like kids as much as they used to, but there's a lot of other available options. They can invest in their careers. They take more leisure time. It's much more socially acceptable to not have children. But I am seeing in my daughter's generation, which they're in their late 20s, a lot of their friends are really struggling with fertility. They're turning to fertility treatments in their 20s, looking at IVF and other forms of fertility treatments.
There have been some studies on the benefits to a decreasing population, however, such as having a smaller human footprint on the planet could benefit the environment, along with growing individual freedom, like you talked about, economic empowerment of women. A UN study found that the rapid drop in the number of girls that actually helped by the number of girls giving birth, that there, like you said, that there was more of that freedom and more of that education, more of that. And we all have friends and family members who are in their 30s right now, who, 30 years ago we would have been said, when are you going to start having kids?
Right.
And now you don't have that conversation anymore, because if you want to have kids, you have kids. If you don't, that's your freedom these days.
So Utah's not exempt, and I'll just say I actually was able to give birth to 4 living children, and we adopted a lot of children, so children who had been born in other circumstances. But what I'm seeing with my kids, and this is borne out with the data not only across our nation but in Utah specifically, kids that are they're adults now that are having children now, they don't want big families, right? So my family of origin, there were 6 of us when we were growing up. That was pretty average, I would say, for the late 60s and early 70s. But Utah still has the largest household size in the country, but we're at 2.9 people per household now, and that's compared to 2.5 nationally. We have a few kids. We're larger than the U.S., but we're still below replacement level. We're just under 2, and the nation is looking at like 1.5.
And an hour ago, Holly, we were talking about house prices.
Yep.
And a lot of people that I know, young couples that I know, are saying, until I can get into a house,
that's exactly right.
I don't want to start a family.
Yep.
And that decision is becoming more prolonged than it has been in the past, because let's face it, and we talked about it earlier, house prices in Utah are skyrocketing to the point where in certain counties, especially Salt Lake, the Wasatch Front counties and down in St. George area, those areas are now at a level where most people just can't afford a house,
right.
Child or not.
Right.
But certainly if you have children, it makes that calculation more difficult.
Yeah, it does. And one of the things, too, that we have seen is that the average first-time home buyer has their age is now in their 30s. It used to be in their 20s. It's increased quite a bit, and it's that housing price. In fact, I saw another article recently about people whose children have moved back home with them. They're college graduates. They have jobs, but they're not able to afford to buy a home without, moving back to mom and dad's in their late 20s and early 30s so they can start to save up that down payment that can be so significant.
Yeah, you talked about different countries, and I'm just looking at a study that included China. They're expected to lose more than 780 million people from their population, which is half of its population.
Yeah,
by 2100.
They're aging out.
780 million people. I mean, it's an interesting study, and it's something we don't expect. And to me, growing up at a time when we were thinking about population explosion,
right.
I'm thinking maybe there's some good news here, but I can understand both sides of this. There could be some problems with it as well.
Well, Utah's still a family-friendly state, right? And so for many families, part of the calculation, we've already teased it a little bit, that it is the cost of childcare. So not only do you have housing, but you've got childcare. And a new poll shows that more than 3/4 of U.S. adults say the cost of childcare is a major problem. We actually want to hear from our listeners. Do childcare costs concern you, or do they factor into your decision to add to your family? You can text us at 57500.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. The pounds melt off. It's amazing.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself.
Get in the best shape of your life with Soda Weight Loss.
Just 3 weeks in, and pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Summer is right around the corner.
Your summer body starts right here because Soda's summer savings are on.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I tried other things, came to Soda, just amazing.
I started on Soda 8 months ago, and I have released 80 pounds now.
Summer savings, stunning results, only at Soda Weight Loss. Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Amanda, we love talking about Utah Community Credit Union, and guess what? They just got news that they saved their members over $40 million in 2024 alone.
And UCCU is opening 4 new branches in the Salt Lake Valley, which means 6 total now. They have 21st South, Taylorsville, Sandy, Magna, Harriman, and Draper.
And to celebrate these new branches, UCCU is offering some amazing opportunities. First of all, $150 cash just for setting up direct deposit with your UCCU account.
They'll give you up to $250 cash just for transferring any existing loan from another institution to UCCU.
And here's the big one, giving away 10 amazing prizes, including, get this, a brand new 2025 Jeep Wrangler.
So you heard that right. A brand new Jeep Wrangler could be yours, and no purchase is necessary. You don't even have to be a member.
Anyone can enter. It's easy. All you've got to do is go to uccu.com and sign up. So enter to win today.
UCCU.com. Find out more about Utah Community Credit Union, where you're going to love where you bank.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime. We're not here to be the biggest. We're here to bring you something we believe is better. Our plans start at just $20. You'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
ZipRecruiter is the place. ZipRecruiter is the place for talented teachers, savvy software developers, and master mixologists. ZipRecruiter is the place where you meet all these people and more. That's because ZipRecruiter is the place for job seekers who are looking for new opportunities. In fact, ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day, so you can find the right candidates right away. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. That's ziprecruiter.com/free.
At Trio Senior Living, older adults aren't slowing down. They're just getting started. The Prime Fit Wellness Program expands wellness beyond the gym into every aspect of community life. Whatever your goals, the team at Trio Senior Living has got your back, so you can put your best foot forward. Call 801-475-4004 today to schedule your personal visit.
This Friday, join KSL News Radio and NPS from 10 to 1 as the movie show stops by. Then, browse and uncover what makes NPS so great. With 4 locations, NPS takes a new inventory every day. Then, they check all competitors' retail pricing before marking items down 20 to 70% off. You're invited to visit the movie show this Friday from 10 to 1. And that's the first step to discovering NPS. Visit npsstore.com to begin your own NPS adventure. npsstore.com.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
When it comes to vaping, the truth can get clouded. So let's make it clear. Vaping is not safe for youth.
Because vaping can put microscopic particles into your lungs.
And dangerous things like metals into your body.
And nicotine, which can harm a person's brain development through their mid-20s.
With appealing flavors, high nicotine levels, and lots of promotion on social media,
many kids think vaping is harmless, but it's not.
So talk to your kids about the risks of vaping.
Because when you talk, they hear you.
Learn more at underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America. We have a closure of Mountain View Corridor. This is southbound at 6200 South in West Valley. No traffic allowed to go past 6200 South on Mountain View, so you need to find an alternate route. It's due to a field fire that is just past that intersection. So again, use alternate routes on Mountain View Corridor if you were heading southbound through West Valley City. Wasatch Front businesses and property managers, GoPave Utah provides all asphalt repairs for your parking. For patching and paving along the Wasatch Front, contact GoPave Utah. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
The
The new Inside Sources.
When we were talking in our last segment, Holly, we talked about the falling birth rate and the fact that that's been a concern for a lot of people. And I think that it was even addressed in our thing that we continue to talk about for the last month, which is the One Big Beautiful Bill.
Yeah.
When there was a provision put in there that gave every family with a child born in the 4 years that Trump will be our president $1,000.
Right.
A one-time $1,000 contribution that you can add to. It's tied to the stock market, and it will encourage people to have children. But most Americans, when asked, would really prefer the government focus on the high cost of childcare and improving health incomes for pregnant women rather than increasing birth rate.
Yeah, it's a really interesting poll that I saw from the Associated Press and the NORC Center for Public Affairs Research. And what they were asking is for people to prioritize what they thought the government should focus on. So the government has focused on what people are calling pro-natalist policy, meaning increasing birth rate, having more children. But really, only 12% of U.S. adults think that that should be a high priority for the government. And that even means 13% of Republicans, basically about the same, right? They just feel like that's not a top priority, but you have 76% who think that childcare is really a really big option. I mean, a really big obstacle that needs addressing. And today we have with us Amy Winder Newton. She's the senior advisor to Governor Cox, and she's the director of the Office of Families in Utah. And families and childcare, it's all in her wheelhouse, and we're happy to talk to her. Thanks for joining us, Amy.
Thanks for having me. It's good to talk to you about this.
So can you just start, maybe we'll start by talking about how the state is working to support families in general, and then we can talk about childcare specifically.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so many issues related to families. The state sees having stronger families gives us better outcomes for our kids. And so, that's definitely something we're concerned about. The population replacement rate, like you mentioned, huge issue. And I think a lot of people don't think about it, much like a lot of people weren't really thinking about the Great Salt Lake 20 years ago, right? It's not until you get into that more of an emergency and concern that you start paying attention. And until we start really seeing the results of a lower birth rate, I don't think it's going to rise to the top. So, that I'm not surprised that people don't see that as a top issue. But we do care about family-friendly workforce policies and parental leave and good, high-quality child care. Those are things that we do care about right now because they do help support a strong family.
Yeah, and you have to be cognizant, obviously, Amy, when you consider that more and more because of housing prices going up faster than incomes, that there will be more two-income families. And so that requires people to get involved with the child care more than they have in the past.
Absolutely. Well, and it's interesting, too, because even with, so many families working where both parents are working full-time now, there was a study done a few years ago by the Kim C. Gardner Policy Institute, and the results from even two-parent families with kids under 6 was interesting. In that study, 43% said that they preferred one full-time parent, working parent, and one stay-at-home parent, but only 33% were really able to achieve that. 32% said that one full-time parent and a part-time parent was their ideal, but only 26% are able to achieve that. So when you look at that, it makes actually tax policy decisions on childcare kind of tricky, because you've already got a lot of families who are willing to give up one income to have a stay-at-home parent. So is it fair for us to say to them, hey, we know you've already given up this income. We're going to take more of your tax dollars to subsidize somebody else's childcare. And because of that, there's things that we've done as a state. We've promoted the child tax credit, where families under a certain income can get up to $1,000 a year for any of their kids between 0 and 5. So that's a way that we look at a better fairness, way to be fair on that. We encourage our businesses to look at childcare as an important part of retaining good employees. And parental leave is so important. And that's even part of the childcare issue, because infants are the most expensive age group to get childcare for. And so if employers even would expand parental leave so parents had a longer time that they could be home with new infants. That helps ease some of the burden on childcare costs.
So Amy, we have talked on this show with Senator Luz Escamilla about childcare and some of the bills that she's proposed. They keep getting shot down. And she's talking about public-private partnerships with repurposing state buildings, right, that are not being used anymore. But what are some of the things that as a state, whether it's the legislature or the governor, like what can you do besides encourage businesses to support this? Are there any legislative actions that can be taken to really impact the childcare costs?
Yeah, I mean, there's been some grants for businesses who want to do childcare, like an in-business childcare facility. So there's things that have been looked at there. We do have legislators, even for this next session, looking at how do we reduce some of the hoops that these childcare facilities have to jump through when they go to cities and try and get permits. So sometimes that's a big problem, right? That's a big barrier for childcare facilities is they go to their city to try and get a permit to build a facility, and they end up having to pay for, costly power lines being buried or things that may prohibit their ability to build a center. There's requirements that are requiring a catering kitchen for childcare facilities. And so I know there's some legislators looking at that, figuring out what is the right balance here so that we aren't providing a huge burden for these childcare facilities and we can have more. We have seen a lot of spots open. I mean, in the last 3.5 years, we've had 13,500 new childcare spots open up and an additional 200 plus new childcare centers just in the last 3.5 years. And so we're seeing a lot more, but it's also interesting as you talk about the population replacement rate and how we're below replacement and people are having fewer kids. Interestingly enough, we've had childcare providers say, yeah, my waiting lists aren't as long as they used to be. So it'll be interesting to see at some point, does that then even out where care is available for those who need it and maybe the costs kind of even out there. So there's some things that government can do, I think, to help encourage businesses. We can definitely lead the way in some of these things as a state. The state did increase parental leave over the last few years. And so there's things like that we can help to show businesses that this is a good way to do it. This is the right way to help provide the care that these employees need for their families.
Thanks for talking with us, Amy. We've been talking with Amy Winder Newton, the senior advisor to Governor Cox and the director of the Office of Families, really about childcare. We also have had some texts coming in. And again, do childcare costs impact your decisions to grow your family? We're going to continue this discussion over the next segment, but you can text us at 57500. But I just want to share a couple right now. One says, no, we don't need more people. Our economy is based on more people, but it's not sustainable. We need to consider what we need to survive: land for farming, wild space for diversity, space to live, and water.
Yeah, here's the one that I like because I'm a grandparent. Childcare costs and quality of childcare is a huge concern. Grandparents are having to step in to help. That's a good idea.
Well, I am a grandparent, and I work, and so I can't do that.
Right.
One of the things I thought was interesting when I was looking at these numbers, only 3% of American grandparents actually take care of their grandchildren. So that's not actually a really great option, even though it is one that's on the table.
Yeah, and the converse happens a lot where families are taking care of their parents who happen to be the grandparents.
Then you're in the sandwich generation, right?
Then you've got kids and mom and dad that you're trying to take care of.
Yeah, right before we go, but there's one that says the cost of childcare has definitely affected the decision we made as a couple.
Yeah, and then that's too bad. It was nice to have Amy speak to us about that and what the governor and legislature can do. There is another innovative solution to childcare in an apartment complex that just opened in Salt Lake City. We'll talk about that when we come back. But remember, share your thoughts on childcare with us at 57500. We'll be right back.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story: people from the ballpark neighborhood are asking city officials to change their plans for Smith's Ballpark. KSL News Radio's Verl Johansson begins our team coverage.
Community members filled yesterday's Community Reinvestment Agency meeting to share concerns ranging from affordable housing in the area, the amount of green space, and safety. Jeff Sandstrom lives in the area and is a member of the Ballpark Community Council.
I feel like the ballpark next plan has missed the community's vision in some important areas. One, the proposed multifamily housing feels like it's overwhelming the entire project.
Other people raised concerns that construction on the project would drag out, causing local businesses to go under. Sandstrom says he feels the city listened to resident concerns and is optimistic officials will try to incorporate them. The city plans to hold an open house at the ballpark on Thursday. Verl Johansson, KSL News Radio.
It's going to be harder to access certain parts of the Bonneville Shoreline Trail. Some sections now fall into what the state calls a wildlife management area, which requires a hunting or fishing license to enter. The Division of Wildlife Resources says the changes are specifically to benefit wildlife, and the lawmaker who pioneered the change says it's about fairness and making sure those who use public lands pay for them. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Questions are still being raised about the warnings that either weren't issued or weren't listened to when the river rose in Texas.
At least 20 times since 2016, the topic came up among Kerr County commissioners.
We're still trying on the flood warning. Well, I'm trying.
At that November 2020 meeting, Emergency Management Coordinator Dub Thomas said the county had the integrated public alert warning system.
It goes out through cell phones for emergency alert system.
But IPAWS is not a high water specific system, and cell coverage is spotty in the areas hit by Friday's deadly floods. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 49 points right now. We're at 44,290. Coming up, we've got a hot one in store today. 100 degrees will be our high temperature, but not so bad tomorrow and Friday. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 1032. A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM. I am not a rich woman, but I feel like a rich woman every time I go in my closet. The best, hands down, present I've ever received was my husband secretly redid my closet with Closets by Design. So now when I go in there aren't all these shoes just junked on the floor. They're neatly sitting on their shelves. And my necklaces are hanging on their individual hooks, and earrings are in their little squares in this soft drawer that pulls out. It's just gorgeous. In fact, he saw how much I loved it. He had Closets by Design redo the garage. So now all the stuff, the tools, the toys, the junk is all in cabinets. When you open our garage door, you see cars. That's it. It's amazing. The things that Closets by Design can do, and it's going to save you money right now because you get up to 40% off plus an additional 15% off with 18-month financing. You can do so much with your closet, much more than you realize, with this wonderful Utah company, Closets by Design. Find out more at 1-800-BY-DESIGN or closetsbydesign.com.
When might you be buzzed? When you suddenly love everything.
You guys, I love this song.
I love these nachos.
I love our kickball league. Ugh! I love this guy.
What's your name?
You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I love your car. Is this real leather?
If you could hear Old Spice Fiji Antiperspirant, what would it sound like? First, you'd start with Fiji Antiperspirant's amazing scent of palm trees. Add pure notes of fresh coconut and layer on 24/7 odor and sweat protection. You won't hear any dyes or parabens because with Fiji, you won't have any. So while your regular antiperspirant sounds like this, Old Spice Fiji sounds like this. Sounds like it smells amazing.
Everybody knows that exterior remodeling salespeople are all about the high-pressure sell. Am I right? Windows, siding, gutters, those suckers are going to twist your arm and get you to buy, or they won't leave your house at night. Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors, and I want you to know we don't have high-pressure cells. In fact, we don't even have salespeople. Nope, we have estimators. That's a huge difference. Estimators are trained to look at the entire scope of the project, to see and know if there are any problems, like rotten wood, wood-borne insects, or construction issues specific to your house or your neighbors. Salespeople are more concerned about playing those silly price games. Buy one, get one free, Sign today and get 40% off, as if they didn't just jack the price up to give you a fake discount. RGS Exteriors estimators are going to give you a great quote. No games, no tricks, no nonsense. Call RGS Exteriors to quote your exterior project. Our number is 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsutah.com. That's rgsutah.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. And here's Heather Kelly.
Well, Mountain View Corridor remains shut down if you're heading southbound through West Valley City. This is at 6200 South. So from there down toward West Jordan, you will not be able to use Mountain View Corridor southbound. You'll want to use 5600 West as your alternate. It's all due to a field fire that crews are still working to put out. And then you've got some slowdowns on northbound I-15 as you make your way through South Salt Lake from about 3300 South to the 201 freeway. That is due to an earlier jackknife truck that was hauling a trailer. And they've managed to get that moved over to the right shoulder, and all the lanes are now open. Common Spirit hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advanced healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
We're expected to hit another 100-degree day today, but cooler tomorrow. Only 89 for a high Thursday, 90 on Friday. It's warmer than that right now, 91 degrees downtown. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
I'm still trying to get used to having my name stated on the radio twice a day. That's pretty cool. We're continuing to get a lot of texts about the two questions we're dealing with right now. One is your feeling about the declining birth rate, good or bad, and the other is about childcare costs and the decision that people are forced to make, or at least are making, with respect to, do we have more children? Can we afford childcare, or should we just live our lives and do what we want to do without children?
Right, and there are people who make different decisions, right? But sometimes we're seeing, I think, more and more that childcare costs are really impacting people's decision on how large their family can be and how they manage childcare. So one texter told us that they're a grandparent that babysits for both of their adult children. They say their adult kids and their spouses, all four, work full-time, but childcare would be too expensive for them even. They all make a good salary, but quality childcare is just so expensive, and this person takes the kids 3 days a week to help out, and they love it. And, you know, when my kids were growing up, I was a stay-at-home parent, and I had things that I did kind of on the side sometimes at night, but I was able to do that. But as I'm looking at my kids, they are facing these really jacked up prices, really, for housing and cost of living, and it's really impacting their family size decisions that they're making.
Yeah, my oldest has his mother living with him, and I've seen how really helpful it is to have a grandmother in the house. He and his wife can get out and go have dinner more often. Right. They can have somebody pick up the kids from school, and they're both free to work. They're both professionals in the medical field, and so they can work with his mother watching the children. And I think that's been really interesting to watch. And in some respects, I'm kind of jealous because I get to see the grandkids, 3 or 4 times a year. They live in California, but their grandmother lives with them every day, and she has this unique relationship with them that I think is really fun to watch.
Yeah, some of the data that we're seeing on childcare costs. The Utah Department of Health and Human Services says childcare should not cost more than about 7% of a person's income. But according to the Voices for Utah Children in Utah, the cost typically amounts to 17%, and in some places it's much higher, like Grand County can be 45%.
Yeah, and Utah now has its first apartment complex that's offering on-site, low-cost childcare. KSL TV's Deanie Wimmer highlighted this on Sunday Edition. We're going to learn more about it after this.
As we look at the childcare crisis, this new apartment complex is unique in Utah, and it could be a game changer. Many complexes offer amenities like pools or gyms. This is the first to have an on-site, low-cost child care center right in location.
So we're actually really excited to be joined by Jennifer Nuttall. She's the executive director of the Neighborhood House, which, as I understand, Jennifer, this is the parent operation that is looking at this new on-site child care facility. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Great. So can you just give us an overview, give our listeners an overview about what this child care looks like within these Spark apartments?
Yeah, it's a really unique concept, and we're so excited about this model because it does, like you're saying, really reduce the barriers that people are having to accessing childcare. So Spark is the affordable housing complex. There's a 200-unit beautiful facility. It's all affordable housing, so that's anyone who's not at the median income level. They fall below that. And then we have a neighborhood house satellite location right on site. We have 3 classrooms. We have a playground that's dedicated just for the kids, and we're doing preschool on a sliding fee scale for the tenants and the surrounding community.
So how is this funded, Jennifer? The tenants get a great break. It's based on a sliding scale. The facility's right in the apartment complex, but
yep,
there's still a financial component to this.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you asked that question because for those of you out there who are lucky enough to be more affluent and have the ability to support different organizations around town that are help making the community better, that's the way that we raise money. We're a nonprofit, so we reach out to family foundations here in the community, to individuals. We hold a big fundraiser in September. And that's how we fill the gap between what these clients can afford to pay and what it costs to provide the service. Now, the reason people do that is because when you invest in high-quality early education, when you invest in working families who are trying to work up that economic ladder, trying to become contributing members of society, that's where people choose to put their dollars as far as we want our community to be better. We want to provide services to those who are less able to access them than we are. And so that's how it kind of benefits our entire community if we have people who are working. You know, you mentioned how high the cost of childcare is. So if you think about it, that's going to push someone out of the workforce. Think about a single mom who has 3 kids. If she's paying, up to 45% of her income on childcare, she's not able to work. That pushes her out of the workforce, back on to government services, right? Going the wrong direction, possibly even crisis and losing their home, becoming homeless, going into these, issues that are so much more difficult to solve. So we provide that safety net. We're saying, no, we want you out there working. We want you being productive, providing for your family. Let's get you the services you need to move up the economic ladder, to, be able to work and to get those promotions because your child is somewhere safe all day long getting early education, and you don't have to worry about those workplace disruptions. I mean, we all know anyone who has kids knows how often that can happen if they aren't in a great situation.
So Jennifer, I did look at your website and I see that you have also, it's not just education and childcare, but you're providing food as well, which is certainly an issue we've been talking about on this show too. Can you tell us just briefly how you feed these kids?
Yep, we are so lucky because at our main location, when we built that, we thought about scalability in mind, and we wanted to be able to expand. So we have an industrial kitchen on site that can provide all the food. It's very nutritious, and we provide breakfast, lunch, and an afternoon snack for all the kids while they're there. That goes also for our main location. So in that kitchen, we're producing over 140,000 meals annually because nobody can learn when they're hungry and nobody can, get past that. It's so important that we provide, for those who are food insecure and provide them really healthy, good food.
That was Jennifer Nuttall, Executive Director of the Neighborhood House. And Holly, what a great idea. What a great concept. And I hope that this continues into other facilities. And it sounds like it is. It sounds like this is not necessarily a pilot project, but the one that Deanie Wimmer,
great idea.
Yeah, talked about with the Spark Apartments in Salt Lake City. I remember when I started working for Salt Lake County at the county complex over on 21st South and State, that they had a child care facility in there, and that they did offer a break to county employees. We took advantage of it. It was great because, I could go see my kids during lunch.
Right.
Just having it at the workplace, or even better, it's a part of your apartment complex where you live, would be a huge benefit. When we come back after the break, it's the T word. Tariffs are on again, off again. But the most recent news we have is that President Trump is proposing a 50% tariff on copper and a whopping 200% tariff on pharmaceuticals. How will that affect you? We'll talk about that when we come back.
If you're ready to buy a home or sell a home and you're worried about the current real estate market because of what you've heard from some of your friends or family, well, we're here to tell you that you really shouldn't be worried because now is a great time to buy and sell with our friends at the Stern Team, powered by Almada Real Estate.
And here's why. Buyers have more options due to increased inventory, which gives them the power to negotiate for repairs, interest rate buy-downs, and closing cost assistance. While at the same time, sellers are still getting top dollar for their homes, with home values that are higher today than ever before. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, the current real estate market presents a win-win opportunity for both buyers and sellers.
But you still do want to make sure that you're working with a team of real estate experts you can trust that can get you some great results. And that's our friends at the Stern Team, powered by Almada Real Estate.
They have helped thousands of Salt Lake City homeowners, and they're ready to help you. To get started, just go to thesternteam.com. That's thesternteam.com, or Google The Stern Team.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio. Or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
You bought a house, or maybe you're building one, but it just isn't feeling like home. Not yet. AMC Building Materials has this undeniable knack for transforming a house into a home, your home. How do they do that? They combine years of exceptional kitchen and bath creations with your ideas. In fact, customer satisfaction is their #1 priority. You know what you want. You know it's not going to be cookie cutter, and this is exactly where AMC shines. AMC delivers exceptional quality, bold-style kitchen and bath designs, along with their exceptional value and a timeline you'll love. Most projects are complete by the elite AMC professional installers in under 10 days. Immerse yourself in the beauty, function, and feel in person at the AMC Building Materials showroom in Salt Lake City. Get directions and schedule your free estimate at amckitchenslc.org. AMC Building Materials, transforming your house into a home. amckitchenslc.org.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Protect your home and auto with a bundle from Progressive so you can stop worrying about them and invent new things to worry about, like snakes in your bedroom. Sure, that sounds incredibly irrational, but now that we've mentioned it, you are a little worried. The odds of one snake, let alone snakes plural, are so slim. But you might want to check. Oh, you're not near your bedroom. Guess you'll just have to sit there and worry about it. So let Progressive protect your home and auto, because you've got enough to worry about. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Over 3/4 of Americans will experience foot pain, and most will just live with that pain every day. But Foot Solutions in Orem is here to change that. Here's Amanda from Provo.
I am an active woman, ex-Division I basketball player at BYU. By trade, I'm a PE teacher. Over the last 2 years is when my feet really started hurting.
And that's when Amanda's life changed with a visit to Foot Solutions in Orem.
My experience at Foot Solutions was so unique to any other experience I've had. Over an hour they spent with me, really going over my specific pain points.
After discovering so many solutions and custom in-house made orthotics, what does Amanda want you to know?
Invest in your health. Don't be cheap to your feet. Living a pain-free, active life again has been worth every cent.
Just search for Foot Solutions in Orem and find out more at footsolutions.com.
I'm Amanda from Provo. I'm 47 years old, and Foot Solutions has given me back a pain-free, active lifestyle.
Inside Sources.
Let's talk about tariffs. Again, we said that they're on again, off again. Trump's proposing 50% tariff on copper, 200%, double the price of pharmaceuticals. And before we get to how that will impact you, let me just say this. Yesterday, U.S. copper prices rose to an all-time high. That is the price of copper in the United States. This has got to be good for Kennecott. We've got one of the largest copper mines in the world right here, but the price of copper is at an all-time high. President Trump says he's holding firm to his deadline this time for August 1st. He said, well, it's a ways. It's still 3 weeks away. A letter was sent out from the White House to nations that he's having negotiations with. He claims that those letters are the finalized deal. Of course, tariffs are a tax on foreign imports into the United States, and they're paid for by U.S. companies. More on this from ABC's Karen Travers at the White House.
The president sent out 14 letters. There are going to be more letters in the coming days to countries around the world, indicating to them what that tariff rate will be on August 1st. He is still giving somewhat of a mixed message, though, on whether or not there is actually room for negotiations. Last night, he had told me that he is done, that this is it. That is the number that is in place. But he is still indicating, though, that that number will happen, the tariffs, on August 1st, and countries can talk to the administration about it between now and then.
So one of the things on pharmaceuticals, let's start there, and then we can talk about copper. But pharmaceuticals, when he first talked about tariffs, President Trump said pharmaceuticals would be exempt from these tariffs. And now he's saying, nope, it's going to be 200%. So basically triple your price, right? If you've got X amount and then you add 200%. What that impacts for the average consumer is all of your basic medications, your antibiotics, your Tylenol, your ibuprofen, acetaminophen, right? All of those things, almost all of those are produced outside of the United States.
Oh.
Yeah, not here.
Okay. Because I'm thinking pharmaceuticals, we've got to be the number one producer of pharmaceuticals.
We are not. We consume a lot, but we do not produce a lot. In fact, there's some research that shows that only 10% of the pharmaceuticals that we use in the United States are actually produced in the United States. So can you take a guess?
Because we have the labs. Before I get there, we have all these labs that are creating these pharmaceuticals. We have the technology to create new drugs, new medications.
Yeah,
right?
We have some, and we do see the branded pharmaceuticals, so the ones that are the name brand, that those prices will go up. But of course, we know the profit margin on those is quite high as well. But again, a lot of the generics, but even some of the name brand, are produced in other countries. Do you want to take a guess at the top two? It's not the U.S. They were way at the bottom.
I have no idea. Canada and maybe China.
So China's number 2, actually. So good guess. And the other one is India. So 45% of our pharmaceuticals come from India, and something like 30% come from China.
So a 200% tariff, if it's reciprocal, is going to really make the price.
That's right. That's right. And for some of these, right, it can price it out of what the average family can afford.
Yeah, and then that's going to, I mean,
it impacts healthcare.
Yeah, you have insurance, you have whatever, but that's got to.
Yeah.
But again, you said it earlier, which I think was really telling. The deadline is August 1st, and this one's, I'm really serious this time.
Yes, but the deadline was also yesterday.
Right,
you remember?
Right. So 200% on pharmaceuticals. I wonder why that one is so large. I mean, there must be.
I mean, the overall conversation, and I don't know the specifics on this current version, but the overall conversation is you want to bring manufacturing back to the United States and, get it from offshore. Certainly, we saw during the pandemic that there were supply chain issues when you did not have the ships moving nearly as smoothly around the world. That there were supply chain issues, not just with toilet paper, but with basically finding some of these medications, right? There were surgeries that were postponed, anything that was not considered urgent or emergent, right? That the healthcare facilities were saying, look, we are running out of IV fluid and we're running out of these access to these medications. And so we want to make sure that we only are doing what's most needed right now. Part of that was supply chain because they're coming from overseas.
Still surprised that India and China export more pharmaceuticals than the United States.
Well, they make more, right?
That's what I mean, right?
Yeah, so far more. Yeah. We just are not doing a lot here.
We just developed the technology and then farm
Offshore.
Right.
You know, look, even some of those weight loss drugs we talked about yesterday with Lois Collins, they're not manufactured here. They're manufactured elsewhere.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder where we sit in the scale, because I would have bet anything that we were number one, but those are two countries.
We're number one.
I guess
Not
China,
always.
but, right?
Yep.
And let's talk about copper.
Yep.
Trump is proposing a 50% tariff on copper. Now, I've got to imagine, and maybe you don't have the stats right in front of you, that we are among the largest exporters of copper, just because our country has.
That's a actually good question. But I will tell you this: one of the things that I've seen just in news stories pop up is that people are going to home construction sites across the country and they're stripping copper wire, right? So whether that's in Utah, right, you've got new construction, or whatever you're looking at for this wire. In fact, my son is an electrician, and he says sometimes he shows up at the job site and people have come and stripped the copper wire. So to your question about do we export more, you tell me, did you find out the answer?
Yes. Chile was the top exporter of copper with exports at $40 billion. And the second largest, oh my gosh, we're not even in the top 5. Surprising to me. Chile is the top exporter of copper, according to Trade MX. Peru is the second. Indonesia, Australia, and Mexico. Those are the top 5 exporters of copper.
Yeah. So what I'm seeing is that the U.S. relies heavily on copper imports, and these tariffs then are expected to drive up domestic prices and disrupt supply chains again. We use copper in electronics, in our cars, in renewable energy. We use it in our houses, like we said, in electric wire, right? Copper wire.
And what this is going to do is exactly what you just talked about, which means that job sites or abandoned buildings are going to be stripped of the copper. And what the people do, it's just awful. They then burn the coating off of it and then take it to a scrapyard and sell it as copper. And they get pennies for it, but the people that lose the copper lose
a
dollars,
lot more, and
exponentially more.
It's going to impact housing prices.
Sure.
Right? So you have copper, you're creating incentives potentially for more people to come in and steal the copper, it's still going to drive your costs up.
Yeah,
So.
and copper is at an all-time high. I don't know what that is, but it doesn't matter. But the price of copper right now is as high as it's ever been. I mean, it may be good for some of the industries in the United States that produce copper, but not necessarily good for the people that consume copper. It's a huge commodity in automobiles,
right,
and housing, electricity. Obviously, it's one of the best materials to conduct electricity.
Right.
So it's what's used more than anything. And in fact, if you want to upgrade to copper wire, that's what people tell you to do nowadays.
The thing with tariffs, right, and we've had this discussion before, is the uncertainty that it's imposing on the markets right now, right? Because we've had this back and forth. Are there going to be tariffs? How much are they going to be? Are they going to be 200%? Are they going to be 10%? Are they going to be 25%? Are they going to be 50%? And do they go into effect August 1st or July 9th? Or is it going to be September? It's so uncertain that it really has caused a lot of turmoil, I think, for people. In even just trying to plan, if I'm going to build a house, I need to get lumber from somewhere. I need to get electric wire from somewhere.
Now,
right?
In anticipation of a large tariff, go buy a big stack of copper wire and hope that it doesn't get stolen and burnt. Letters went out to 14 different countries yesterday saying there's going to be these tariffs August 1st, which is only...
That's a weird way to impose, to let people know, oh, by the way, here's a form letter telling you we're going to impose tariffs on your country's exports.
Right. Well, hopefully, Holly, there is room for negotiation. Hopefully there's going to be some discussion, notwithstanding that ABC's Karen Travers, who earlier said there's not going to be any discussion. There always is. There's always a chance that people will come to the table and we won't have to deal with a lot of those expensive upgrades on both pharmaceuticals and copper in the United States because of these tariffs. Have you heard of the Operation Gigawatt?
I have.
It's Utah's ambitious plan to double energy production in the next 10 years, and that means a whole lot of research and production. Coming up, we will talk with the director of Utah's Energy Research Lab, and later we will be joined by Utah's Lieutenant Governor to talk specifically about nuclear power.
Salt Lake City. From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio, Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jessica Lowell. KSL's top story this hour. A man accused of shooting more than 150 rounds at police and barricading himself in a St. George home is now in custody after the home caught fire mid-standoff.
And within several minutes of that happening, the suspect came out, surrendered to officers.
St. George Police Chief Kyle Whitehead says the house caught on fire about 2 hours after they arrived. They don't know how the fire started yet, but the home is now a total loss. Police say officers returned fire at some point, but neither they nor the suspect was hurt. Officials say given the circumstances, this ended as well as it possibly could have. Our top national story this hour, changes at the top of X. The CEO is stepping down.
Linda Yaccarino was handpicked 2 years ago by Elon Musk to run the social network. The former head of NBC Universal's ad business writes on the platform, "It was the opportunity of a lifetime, and she is immensely grateful to Musk for entrusting her with the responsibility of protecting free speech and turning the company around." On X, Elon Musk thanked Yaccarino for her service.
ABC's Sherry Preston reporting. And your money at this moment, a green day on Wall Street. Dow up 51 points, NASDAQ up 124. Coming up, another triple-digit day. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. The pounds melt off. It's amazing.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself.
Get in the best shape of your life with Soda Weight Loss.
Just 3 weeks in, and pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Summer is right around the corner.
Your summer body starts right here because Soda's summer savings are on.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I tried other things, came to Soda, just amazing.
I started on Soda 8 months ago, and I have released 80 pounds now.
Summer savings, stunning results, only at Soda Weight Loss. Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
If you've got a gas-powered engine, keep it running like new at every fill-up. Stable in-season protection is your engine's preventative medicine, cleaning and protecting the entire fuel system in season. In outdoor power equipment, prevent gum and varnish buildup that could cause a rough or non-running engine. For cars and trucks, increase fuel efficiency and power by removing deposits, ensuring your engine's long-term health. Stable outperforms the competition in independent lab testing. So at every fill-up, start with Stable.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You've built the dream, the home, the lifestyle, the legacy. Now it's time your windows and doors reflect that same $1 million standard. Whether you're designing a stunning custom home or upgrading the one you've loved for years, Peach Doors and Windows is here to bring that vision to life with precision, style, and craftsmanship.
The Peach specialty? High-end custom windows and doors that don't just fit your space, they elevate it. From sleek modern lines to timeless elegant finishes, they offer the kinds of craftsmanship that truly complements a $1 million space. And with Peach, the process is easy. No pressure, no gimmicks, just knowledgeable experts helping you find solutions to turn your someday project into right now.
Visit their spacious showroom, get inspired, and create something beautiful together. Peach Doors and Windows for the $1 million home you live in and the $1 million feeling you deserve. Visit peachdoorsandwindows.com or call 801-566-1255 today.
That's Peach Windows and Doors. Give them a call, 801-566-1255.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Heather Kelly.
We still have the closure of Mountain View Corridor. This is southbound right at 6200 South in West Valley. All southbound lanes are shut down from an earlier field fire. Now all the flames are out, no more smoke, but crews are still working to make sure there's no hot spots involved there. So not sure how much longer the roadway will be closed. You can use 5600 West as your alternate. Most of the other crashes that we have cleared, but there was debris, a bunch of hay bales dumped on the connecting ramp from the 201 freeway going eastbound to continue east onto I-80. That's now over on the left shoulder, but little pieces of hay still remain on some of the lanes of travel. Advanced Window Products offer Graber window coverings, high-end quality with the best warranty. Save 30% off when you mention KSL. AdvancedWindows.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
We're looking at another 100-degree day today. Tomorrow we're going to get some relief, though. High of 89, high of 90 on Friday. Right now it's 91 degrees and fair. I'm Jessica Lowell from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com or Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Utah has an ambitious plan to double energy production within the next 10 years, and that means a whole lot of research and production. In just a moment, we'll talk with the director of Utah's Energy Research Lab, and later we'll be joined by Utah's Lieutenant Governor to talk about nuclear power. But Holly, with just what's happening with our state right now, and we talked about population, not necessarily growing, but the need for energy is going to continue to grow in ways that I don't know that people appreciate, but apparently some leaders in our state do.
So Utah's population is growing. It's just more in migration rather than birth, right? So last fall, Governor Cox unveiled what they're calling Operation Gigawatt. So they're really trying to focus on how do you double energy production in a decade. That's really not a long period of time. And there were 4 factors kind of driving that. So the growing population is one, the energy intensive industry like artificial intelligence, which we have talked about before, the increased electrification of vehicles, and the retirement of baseload capacity for reliable electricity. So basically saying,
getting rid of some of the old systems.
Right. And some of the old plants and things are not able to continue producing at the same level. So their goals include increasing transmission capacity so more power can be placed on the grid, right? And if you remember, like if you used to have, I don't know if you ever had this growing up, but you would plug too many kitchen appliances in and you'd blow your circuit, right?
Yes.
You have to be able to increase the ability to transmit power. You also have to have new and more diverse energy production. So Utah is an all of the above energy state. We try to do all kinds of things so that we have diversified sources, and that will include nuclear, but it also includes solar, and it includes coal, and it includes geothermal, it includes wind, right? We're looking at all these possibilities, oil and gas, even hydrogen potentially. It also includes a policy, new policies, and those will be coming through the legislature. But the fourth thing that they're trying to accomplish with Operation Gigawatt is investing in Utah innovation and research. And that is where the San Rafael Energy Lab comes into play. And we're actually joined by the director there, Jaron Wallace. Hi, Director Wallace. Welcome to our show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm wondering if you could give us an overview of first of all, where your lab is located, because I think it's super interesting, and an overview of the work that's being done there right now.
Yeah, of course. So the lab is located in Orangeville, Utah, in Emery County, so central Utah. And the focus of our lab, much like you said, diversification is really important. We are looking at partnering with clients to find cleaner, more efficient ways to produce energy in all formats. So we have looked at coal combustion, how to make that more efficient, as well as nuclear projects and others.
So is nuclear going to be, in your opinion, Mr. Wallace, a big part of where the future is going in Utah?
I believe so, if the people are willing and want to pursue that route. But I think while a big part, it is only a small part. I think, again, diversification is the name. We need the base load power, but every energy source has pros and cons, and that's what we're trying to do, is see that development across all energy sources.
Jaron, what is the San Rafael Energy Lab? I mean, what is it? Is it more of a think tank? Is it funded by the government? Tell us about how it works and what's happening there.
Yeah, so we are located within the Office of Energy Development, and we have funding from the state. We do actually have laboratory facilities with equipment. We have engineers and staff that are in there getting their hands dirty, running these experiments. We have about 40 acres of property here that's been home to some pilot scale testing in the coal industry and looking at moving forward to test reactors for nuclear reactors, basically being a site where these new and upcoming energy technologies can prove out and perfect their technology before moving to commercialization.
So as people are performing these experiments and this research, how does that, first of all, how long does that process take? And then how does it scale?
So it varies from project to project, energy source to energy source. And so as an example, you may study for years at a university about a particular concept, studying that at a very small scale. We're focused heavier on what we call pilot scale testing. So essentially the step right before you were to take a technology commercial, where what we're testing is, we call it new, but there is a background in these technologies. We're proving it at a larger scale so that these companies can then turn around and produce it on a commercial level for the state. And the timeline really does vary, and a lot of it is funding driven. Where are these companies getting their funding? Is this state or federal funding? Is it private funding? And the funding is really what drives the speed, as well as demand, talking about how soon does Utah need these solutions. And the more urgent it becomes, the quicker we'll see these companies start to move.
Jaron, when I think of that part of the state, Emery County into the North Carbon County, Orangeville, Carbondale, you obviously think about coal, and it's a huge coal production area, maybe one of the largest in certainly in the West. What do you think is the future of coal in Utah, or can you say?
Well, I can say that from what I've experienced in this area is that the people here do not want coal to go away. And we've seen from federal regulation a lot of fluctuation in what is or isn't allowed in the coal industry. We've also seen the coal plants here fluctuate to those requirements to continue to operate. So I think the general consensus that I gather is we're not talking about replacing coal. We're talking about adding to it.
So one final question before we let you go. If you're looking from your perspective as the director here of the Energy Lab, what is your top priority to be able to double capacity in less than 10 years now?
I think my top priority is development across all energy resources. I don't think there is one answer to doubling that. Like I mentioned before, I think nuclear plays a role, but I think so does coal, so does solar, so does wind, so does geothermal. I think we need technological development across all of these to make all of them cheaper and more efficient.
That was Lab Director Jaron Wallace from the Utah San Rafael Energy Lab. Beautiful part of the state, by the way, the San Rafael Swell. When we come back after the break, Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson just returned from a fact-finding mission. We're going to stay on this subject to a place that used nuclear energy for a long time. She will join us in studio to share some key insights for Utah's energy future when we come back.
Have you seen those billboards that have a giant turtle on them that say, "Win a new air conditioner"? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and you're probably wondering, what's that all about? Well, the turtle is a character in our new TV commercials that'll be airing this summer. I know it's kind of silly, but we're always trying to figure out how to grab attention and stand out in a crowded market. We thought a big turtle would do the trick. Another thing we're doing is every week this summer, Any Hour is giving away an air conditioner to one lucky customer. We're calling it the Coolest Summer Sweepstakes. Here's how it works. This summer, if you get an estimate to replace your air conditioner or purchase a new air conditioner from Any Hour Services, you'll automatically be entered into our weekly drawing. If your name is drawn, Any Hour will pay for your air conditioner, up to $8,750. We just want to meet more homeowners that are in the market for a new air conditioner and have the chance to earn their business. We're confident that once you have an Any Hour technician in your home, you'll see why we have over 28,000 Google reviews. No purchase is necessary. See official rules at anyhour.com.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America. We still have the closure of Mountain View Corridor southbound at 6200 South, but police are just picking up the last of the cones that had shut down that roadway. So it is about to reopen if you're heading south from West Valley into West Jordan. Just give it a few extra minutes. It had been closed for over an hour due to a field fire. Wasatch Front businesses and property managers, GoPave Utah provides all asphalt repairs for your parking. For patching and paving along the Wasatch Front, contact GoPave Utah. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370, 888-999-6370, or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Imagine waking up every morning with a smile you're proud of. No more hiding, no more pain. Stubbs Dental Implant Center, Utah's Best of State winner for 3 years in a row, has helped thousands of people ditch the dentures and say goodbye to missing or broken teeth. Their expert team specializes in giving you a permanent, natural-looking smile with dental implants that feel and function just like real teeth. With over 2,000 5-star Google reviews, their patients say it best.
Dental implants gave me my life back. I feel confident again. I feel like I can be myself.
There was no way I was getting dentures. Getting dental implants from Stubbs Dental has been the best decision of my life.
Let the expert team at Stubbs Dental help you take the first step to changing your life with dental implants. Schedule your complimentary consultation today, a $350 value, absolutely free. Visit StubbsDental.com today. That's StubbsDental.com. StubbsDental.com.
My perfect day has sand, salt water, and friends. But my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can take me out of the moment. Now I'm all in with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi. Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, most people saw 90% clearer skin, and many were even 100% plaque-free at 4 months. Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis. Visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home.
You were prescribed opioids after the C-section, when Dad injured his back, when your basketball star tore his ACL. Opioids helped with the pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Opioids are powerful pain-reducing prescription medicines, but most people who are prescribed opioids don't finish their prescriptions. So millions of unused opioids are sitting in homes across the country. And tragically, more than 100 Americans die every day from overdoses involving opioids. What can you do to protect your family? Remove the risk of unused opioids from your home. Pills, patches, or syrups in drawers, purses, and cabinets, anywhere they might be hiding. To find out how to dispose of them properly, visit www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
And expanded Inside Sources.
So we're joined in studio by Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. So you just took a trip, and I called it a fact-finding mission. But tell our listeners where you went and what you were doing.
Yeah, it really was a fact-finding mission. I led a small delegation to the United Kingdom a couple of weeks ago. We went to see, to learn more about what they're doing in the nuclear space. There's a nuclear renaissance happening right now. And the United Kingdom is making a very intentional and specific push. They used to get a lot of their power from nuclear energy, and some of those plants were decommissioned. They haven't really done it for the past 30 years or so, and now they're trying to get started again, specifically with small modular reactors, or SMRs. So we went to visit with the government officials, with industry, with education leaders, University of Manchester and others, to find out what we can learn so that we can do that here in Utah.
So talk to our listeners about a small modular reactor, because I think of a nuclear power plant as taking 30 acres with giant towers that are 40 feet in the air. And I mean, just you have this idea, but we're talking about something significantly with a little bit smaller footprint.
Much smaller footprint, and they don't put out as much power. So the big traditional nuclear power plants, they put out a gigawatt of energy, and the small modular reactors around 370 megawatts. So it's less than half the amount, which is good for some areas. But there aren't really any online yet. None have been fully developed. There was a competition in the United Kingdom earlier this year. You've heard of the Great British Bake Off. It was kind of like that, but it was like for nuclear, the Great British Nuclear Competition. and Rolls-Royce actually got awarded the government contract to build these SMRs. And so we were able to visit Rolls-Royce. We were able to visit with British officials. And the reason that we really have been focusing on the United Kingdom, too, is we have the state of Utah has a really good and longstanding relationship with the United Kingdom. They're by far our biggest trading partner. The governor, a couple of years ago, entered into a memorandum of understanding with the United Kingdom, with the British government, and to share best practices on a lot of manufacturing and education resources. And now we really want to put an addendum on that and include nuclear in this. So it was a productive visit. We got to see that we are not ready yet here in Utah for nuclear. Not ready. And we've got a lot to do to get ready in the next 10 years.
So talk more about that. What does it mean to say we're not ready and there's a lot that needs to happen?
Well, we get a little bit impatient. We need more energy. We want it now. We want to be able to see results of our actions quickly. That's not necessarily possible, right, in the nuclear industry space. I mean, it takes some work. So when we say we need to get ready, we need the workforce. We need to develop that pipeline for the workforce. We need to develop the supply chain. And a lot of that I think we can do here in Utah. We've already got part of the nuclear energy supply chain here in Utah. I think we would love to explore the opportunity to get more of that here in Utah. And we need site development. We also need regulations to be the Trump administration is really making a specific intentional push to streamline the regulatory process for new nuclear reactors here in the United States, especially SMRs, and we need to get that. We need to get that done. And we have our own state level regulations and processes that we need to get in place.
So are we talking, we obviously aren't hold you to anything, to months, years, decades? I mean, obviously the need for energy is coming quickly.
Yes.
And nuclear energy the technology seems to be there in some other parts of the country. I mean, and certainly United Kingdom. So we don't need to develop the technology necessarily. But the workforce and logistics, I think, are going to take some time.
Right. And the technology for the next generation, the small modular reactors, the advanced reactors, that technology is still really being developed. I mean, there's nothing done yet there. So part of it is continuing to develop that technology. Part of it is figuring out financing, capital investment, and doing figuring out how we're going to do the risk sharing in the state, because we want energy to be abundant and cheap for our residents. And there's a lot of different ways. I heard your segment before, and the gentleman from San Rafael is absolutely right. We're not putting all of our eggs in one basket. We got to have lots of baskets with our eggs in it, and we're very much an all of the above state when it comes to energy. We have renewable energy. We've got geothermal. We've got coal. We've got gas. But we do see a need to develop more clean energy. We have a lot of coal, but it's hard there's just not a lot of certainty there. So we've got to be able to fill those gaps. As we have baseload and dispatchable energy resources decommissioning in the next, decade or so, we have to be able to replace those with reliable, dispatchable, clean energy. And nuclear can fill that role.
So can you talk to our listeners about safety, right?
Yes.
I think when people think nuclear, they think nuclear weapons and great big mushroom clouds and downwinders and lots of danger. And that seems to have changed.
Well, I hope it has. And it's one thing to talk about it in theory, and it's another thing to say, okay, well, we're going to put one of these in our community, right? Nuclear energy it's very different. This is not our grandfather's downwinders nuclear weapons testing that happened in Utah and the western United States. Very, very different. The uranium is enriched at very low percentage in order to have a civil energy purpose. It's not the highly enriched uranium that goes to the weapons. There's not going to be anything like that. And I think that the safety technologies have come so far. In the United Kingdom, we visited a uranium enrichment facility and a fuel production facility, and we got out of the car. I mean, it's a highly secure environment, but you could hear kids playing and laughing. There were schoolyards right there. These facilities have been in these communities for decades, and the communities, they're great community partners. The communities love them and work there, and it just they're safe. They're very safe.
Yeah, I think a lot of our listeners and some of us that have been around a bit can remember Chernobyl or 3 Mile Island or the China syndrome. But it also seems like, Lieutenant Governor, that there's a necessity. Like, we don't have a choice at some point.
Right.
We've got to do something because
China's doing this, Russia's doing this. We can't be left behind, and we have to onshore, reshore, nearshore the supply chain as well. In fact, in the United Kingdom, when we were there, we were at a fuel making at Westinghouse. They make the fuel that goes in the reactors, the little pellets, and they had just opened a shipment of nuclear fuel rods that were produced in Ogden at Western Zirconium.
Oh, wow.
So we're already part of that supply chain in a lot of ways. We've got the only uranium mill in the United States here in Utah. And we'd like to be able to see more of that taking place. It would be good for our economy, good for stable jobs, and good for producing the energy that we need. We have no choice.
Right.
We have to do this. And it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of intention on the part of the state.
So Utah already has at least one place where they're using nuclear energy. Isn't that right?
I don't think so.
No.
University of Utah has some kind of nuclear something. What is it that they have up there?
They have I believe they have a test reactor. I might be mistaken. think that they're doing anything with it.
They're not
producing.
They're not producing.
There's no uranium in there.
Okay.
That I know of. I don't know. I could be wrong. I haven't visited it, but we're not producing nuclear energy in the state.
So is anybody in the United States? I know there's a lab in Idaho also. We've got one here, but is there anybody actually producing, or we're still in the ramp up stage?
Yeah, no, you've got Pennsylvania, Georgia, I believe Michigan's is coming back online. So we do have the big traditional nuclear facilities, but they're all in the eastern United States. We don't have any in the west.
Since we have you captive, do you mind staying for another second?
Yeah, sure.
I'm saying that in front of our audience, so you can't really say no.
I'll turn you down now. I'm happy to stay over.
We'll be right back.
11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. It's been 1 year since the death of 12-year-old Gavin Peterson. Investigators say he was abused and starved for years before he passed. Today, Utah State Representative Christine Watkins says she's planning to rerun a bill meant to prevent tragedies like this.
My heart still is broken for him, truly, because that should have never happened.
Watkins' bill would allow judges to grant search warrants to caseworkers when they haven't been able to see or contact a child for an extended period of time. The bill failed in committee during the last legislative session, but Watkins says she's clarifying some things in the bill this time around. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Ukrainian officials say Russia has launched its largest aerial attack yet overnight.
We're seeing now every few days Russia mount these record-breaking attacks as they've dramatically increased the amount of drones that they're able to produce. And really, we're starting to see, I think, a new phase in the air war in Ukraine. Ukraine's air defenses are clearly under significant strain, which is why it is very significant that we are seeing perhaps now President Trump starting to shift his position on this war.
ABC's Patrick Reevil reports. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 91 points. The S&P is up 20 points. And coming up, highs hitting the hundreds. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Greg Carlisle here for Jordan Camper, your truck accessory headquarters at 7000 South State in Midville. Why do I mention my name? For years, I've been the radio voice for Jordan Camper commercials, but I wanted to speak to you as a satisfied customer this time. I love the Line-X protective coating they sprayed on my front and back bumpers of my 2005 Mustang over 5 years ago, and it still looks new. Line-X is famous for durable truck bed coatings with a lifetime warranty. Jordan Camper is family-owned for 5 generations, and their team has over a combined 175 years in team experience installing truck accessories. I've seen them complete work for hundreds of satisfied customers over the years. These guys are good. Jordan Camper specializes in truck top shells and folding, retractable, and one-piece truck bed covers, and a wide range of accessories from fender flares, floor mats to towing products. Check out their great showroom at 7000 South State in Midvale. More information at jordancamper.com.
Ooh, ma. What was that?
That is business phone bliss with the Ooma Cloud phone system. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs.
You sound very...
Calm? I am. Ooma has everything I need to run my business more efficiently, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Nice. Find your business comm at ooma.com/radio.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting great candidates? Well, they're not hard to find when you go to ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. People who are actively looking for jobs like yours. So it's easy to find the right person fast. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
I am not a rich woman, but I feel like a rich woman every time I go in my closet. The best, hands down, present I've ever received was my husband secretly redid my closet with Closets by Design. So now when I go in there aren't all these shoes just junked on the floor. They're neatly sitting on their shelves. And my necklaces are hanging on their individual hooks, and earrings are in their little squares in this soft drawer that pulls out. It's just gorgeous. In fact, he saw how much I loved it. He had Closets by Design redo the garage. So now all the stuff, the tools, the toys, the junk is all in cabinets. When you open our garage door, you see cars. That's it. It's amazing. The things that Closets by Design can do, and it's going to save you money right now because you get up to 40% off plus an additional 15% off with 18-month financing. You can do so much with your closet, much more than you realize, with this wonderful Utah company, Closets by Design. Find out more at 1-800-BY-DESIGN or closetsbydesign.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Ricky Meese.
Well, crews have made progress clearing the debris, the hay, from the roadway a little bit over to the shoulder, but you can take that ramp now northbound I-215's westbound to go eastbound on the 21st South Freeway. Traveling Mountain View, we still have a right lane blocked from an earlier roadside fire southbound Mountain View at 6200 South, but traffic able to get around it without any issue now. When you need the financial products and services for every stage of life, Cypress Credit Union is there for whatever the future holds. Visit cypresscu.com today. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
We could see a high of 100 degrees again today with a little bit of breeze. Tomorrow, temperatures fall back down to 89 with 90 on Friday. Right now, it is 93 and fair. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit House Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
So we're back in studio. We're actually back in studio with Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson. We've been talking about nuclear energy, which is a super interesting topic, and especially when you look at Operation Gigawatt, trying to double energy production in Utah in the next decade, a little bit less than a decade. And one of the things that you mentioned during the break is that not only do we have these modular nuclear reactors, there's also something called nuclear reactors. And once when I was on a guest on this show before we started co-hosting, I called it backpack nuclear. We're not quite there yet, but
not exactly backpack. You couldn't carry any of these on your back.
Maybe someday. Yeah. Maybe it'll be like Back to the Future. It'll be on a kitchen counter. Anyway, tell us a little bit about the micronuclear.
Yeah, the microreactors are really interesting. I mean, one of the things that make nuclear energy so expensive is every facility seems to be bespoke, right? It's tailor-made for that location, and with these modular reactors and the microreactors, they're kind of assembly line made, and they so that cuts the price down, right? And they're more flexible. These microreactors can produce about 16 megawatts. And they are, and you can put multiple ones on site, so you can produce a little bit more energy if you need to. But it's more flexible, and I think those microreactors, honestly, we can have those probably in the next few years rather than the next decade. Those are the timeline's a little bit shorter for those.
So give us an idea of, you talk about the other reactors are like 370 gigawatts or megawatts. It's all the same. Big watt, a lot of watts. And the other one, so what kind of, like, what size of a community are we talking about for these micro and the next bigger size? Like if you had Salt Lake City, you're going to need something pretty big.
Okay, I haven't done that math yet.
Well,
but the microreactors could be for, like, a few dozen homes, a business. They could be flexible for behind the grid, right, behind the meter. One of the challenges that we have is we have an old grid that we could produce a lot more energy, but if there's no way to transport it, then the electrons, it doesn't do us a whole lot of good. So we've got a lot of challenges, opportunities, I like to say, to overcome challenges, to overcome opportunities to seize here. But I think the moment is right, and the reason it's right is because we're seeing this increased demand. We're seeing from a national security standpoint, the need to really amp up our energy production in the United States, especially nuclear energy. We're seeing a bipartisan acceptance of the reemergence of this nuclear renaissance. The new technologies make it a lot safer, and we're starting to problem solve, I think, in ways that are much more productive. The governor is also working with governors from other Western states to really tackle this idea of working together to not just pressure our own federal delegations to help us in our state, but for all of us to be working together to help pressure Congress to help all of our states. And this is a bipartisan effort, which I think is really important. I think we're at a crucial moment here, and we've got to seize this opportunity.
So the governor's initiative, he just unveiled that, if I remember correctly,
Yes.
at the Western Governors Association. Can you speak a little bit more about that? Like, what are besides the regulatory portion, what are the goals here of the governors in the West?
Well, the governor unveiled his Energy Superabundance Initiative with the Western Governors Association, which he is chairing now this year. He's became the chair a few weeks ago and will be chairing until next June. And really, this initiative is the Western governors banding together to figure out these energy challenges that we have, and really, like I said, help push Congress to streamline regulations, to streamline permitting, to help us get nuclear energy here in the Western United States.
You've also got, no doubt, people who are talking about waste and danger.
Yep.
And I mean, how do you collaborate with groups like that? And what's the plan going forward to alleviate fears that people have? And just the whole concept of nuclear energy. What you may or may not do to the environment, because what you're describing is a system that is much, much safer than we're all used to, at least my generation, when we consider nuclear.
Right. We only remember the couple of bad examples, right? And they were terrible. But the new generation of technology is much, much safer. But this is a critical piece, Greg, and one that we talked a lot with officials and education leaders and others in the United Kingdom, how they got community acceptance, right? And that's a really crucial piece of it, helping to educate the community, helping to bring them along to buy into this idea that they can have reliable, clean, effective, and hopefully cheap energy and really good, solid jobs in their communities. And that's something that we have to work on. We also need a plan up front, I believe. We've got to have a plan, and I think that the Trump administration is actually working on this to deal with waste disposal long-term, right? Short-term and long-term waste storage. And that, in the grand scheme of things, the footprint really is quite tiny. These advanced nuclear reactors also use less fuel. It's more highly enriched, the uraniums, and they have to use less of it. So there are pluses and minuses there, mostly pluses, I think, for using the higher enriched uranium, not weapons grade, and not even close to weapons grade. You hear it's still low enriched uranium. It's just a little bit higher than the traditional fuel.
I wanted to ask you really briefly about water. So technology has increased, I think, to the point where nuclear is no longer using the massive amounts of water it used to. Am I correct in that understanding about the technology?
Yeah, for these newer technologies, I mean, I think that the traditional plants that still exist, they do use a large amount of water, and that's not a problem in some areas. It is a problem in the West, though. And that's a challenge that needs to be overcome. So we've got companies like TerraPower, for example, that are working on advanced nuclear technologies using natrium or liquid molten sodium to actually cool the reactors instead of water. There's also some technology that uses air vents to do some of that cooling with some of these more advanced reactors. So these are all things that we are interested in looking at. Now, I don't know that the government is going to be picking what happens and who comes and all of that, but what we can be doing is site prep, figuring out places for these to go, and creating an environment that we need welders. We need welders, right? We've got to develop the pipeline, and we've got to do that before we can attract some of these companies to come in and build these facilities. So that's the groundwork that we need to be laying. We need to be working with our federal delegation. I think we've got the Nuclear Commission, the Regulatory Commission here in the United States. The United Kingdom has one. Europe has one. European Union has one. Canada has one. I think they all need to be working together so that if some of these modular reactors can be, the regulations are uniform enough that if they're certified, in one place, they're good in the other place. That I think would streamline the process. It would bring down costs. It would limit the amount of time necessary to build these.
We've only got a minute left or even less, but you need welders, but you also need money. Do you get the sense from the legislators that attended with you that they're on board, that you're going to get some support?
Well, I certainly hope so. I do get the sense that the legislators, very interested in making sure that we have an environment here that can build nuclear. I think they're committed to that, and a lot of other forms of energy as well.
Very well. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We had our Lieutenant Governor in person with us in studio for the second, or actually umpteenth time. It seems like you're always willing to come.
It's the second she came on our first show, the first day of our show, and now 1 month later.
We had Inside Sources. She came a lot.
Okay.
She was great.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you again. When we come back after the break, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth reportedly did not inform the White House before he authorized a pause in weapons shipments to Ukraine last week, according to at least 5 sources familiar with the matter. Let's discuss that after the break.
Hey there, it's Julie from Logan, where we know how to celebrate summer. First, something super cool when it's really hot. Logan has a new plaza downtown with music and games and a splash pad for kids. Well, I said kids, but hey, we don't judge. Jump in. Free Alive After 5 concerts and movies at the plaza Wednesday and Friday nights. Check out the calendar at explorelogan.com. Keep it cool by checking out live tribute concerts like The Monkees, Elton John's The Rocket Man Show, and the Neil Diamond Experience. If theater is more your style, see the musical Bright Star, Broadway's The Prince of Egypt, or the classic comedy The Importance of Being Earnest. After all, Logan is Utah's heart of the arts. Fresh mountain air is only 10 minutes from your hotel. Enjoy cooler temperatures in the canyon while you hike, mountain bike, picnic, fish, or sing yodelay-hee-hoo at the top of your lungs. Everything's cooler in Logan, and we've got a lot going on. Check out the calendar at explorelogan.com. explorelogan.com.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime. We're not here to be the biggest. We're here to bring you something we believe is better. Our plans start at just $20. You'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
70 years ago, our founders knew why community mattered. And at Deseret First Credit Union, we've spent 7 decades showing how. From your first savings account to your dream home, we've been right by your side. This year, we're celebrating 70 incredible years of trust and service. Because at Deseret First, our legacy is built around you. Visit dfcu.com to learn more and join the celebration.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Project Connection, a local nonprofit, was founded on the belief that connection is essential for mental health. They provide mental health services that improve well-being and foster resilience. Director of Development and Community Engagement, Jennifer Holmberg, joins us with more about their efforts.
Did you know that the number of young adults in Utah experiencing poor mental health has more than doubled in the last decade? According to the Kem C. Gardner Policy Institute, Utah ranks 11th for mental disorders, 3rd for serious mental illnesses, and 4th for adults with serious thoughts of suicide. Project Connection is addressing this critical crisis by improving access to quality mental health care and offering innovative community-based support services in Salt Lake County. We believe that connection builds resilience, and together, we can make a real lasting difference in mental health for our community and beyond. With support from donations, grants, and community partnerships, we're able to offer these essential services to everyone. To learn more about our services or how you can join our network of businesses, groups, and individuals creating points of connection in our community, visit projectconnection.co.
Project Connection is making a tangible impact on individuals' lives by fostering healing through connection. Their trauma-informed, evidence-based approach provides trusted therapy, wellness support, and social prescribing, empowering individuals to overcome challenges and thrive together. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Any Hour Services can make sure your AC keeps you cool this summer. Whether you need a tune-up, repair, or just a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Sure, humans can be a little weird at times, but take it from me, I'm a dog. And a person is about the best thing that can happen to a shelter pet. So if you want to learn how you can be that person, get down to your local pet shelter or visit theshelterpetproject.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth apparently did not inform the White House before he authorized a pause on weapons shipments to Ukraine last week, according to at least 5 sources familiar with the matter, setting off a scramble inside the administration to understand why the halt was implemented in the first place and to explain to Congress and the Ukrainian government. Here's ABC's Karen Travers.
This came after the Pentagon last week had that sudden pause on the delivery of that to Ukraine. The president was asked about that yesterday in the cabinet meeting. He was sitting next to the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, and a reporter asked him who issued that pause, and the president said, "I don't know. Why don't you tell me?" The president then said that there would be defensive weapons being sent from the United States to Ukraine because, as he put it, Putin is not treating human beings right. He said that Putin and Russia are killing too many people there, and the United States has to send that kind of defensive support to Ukraine.
Okay, so Hegseth leaks information about bombing in
secret war plans
wherever, and he creates these group texts talking about we're about to bomb in Yemen or something. I forget where it was. He halts shipments to Ukraine without
unilaterally, man.
Yeah, without
that's what
permission.
It looks like.
I mean, how much nonsense do we have to put up with Pete Hegseth?
Well, honestly, I'm surprised he has lasted in the administration as long as he has. The president at some point, I thought he would go sooner than Elon Musk. I'll just say that, right?
Right.
So he has outlasted Elon Musk. But look, we've talked about uncertainty and tariffs. You're talking about a war and promises that we've made. And Senator John Curtis actually, he weighed in on this issue. He said the Trump administration was right to resume the country's weapon shipments, but he said we should really we need to know how this happened. And he said, I hope the administration will brief Congress on why these shipments were paused in the first place. He said the president was in a very strong position after the successful NATO summit and the strike on Iran's nuclear facilities. And this pause caught many, including allies and members of Congress, off guard.
You wonder what Hegseth's even thinking. I mean, he must have thought he had the green light to do this, but he pauses a weapons shipment to Ukraine at a time when that country couldn't possibly be more vulnerable.
I think Hegseth has tipped his hand to be a little not supportive. He's not supportive of Ukraine's position.
Right.
And, he's been part of blaming Ukraine for Russia's invasion. And, I mean, that's the blame the victim thing, right? Russia invaded them in February of 2022. So it's been over 3 years, almost 3.5 years now. And they're defending themselves. Anyway, Hegseth acted, I think, outside of his authority. We'll see what happens with the administration. But Trump immediately snapped back and said, no, weapons are going back.
Yeah, and Trump has actually been critical of Vladimir Putin. I mean, he's been
just recently.
But at the same time, when these shipments were halted, the administration is critical of the Russian administration. So the timing of this couldn't have been more awkward, I think, for Hegseth and for the country. And Congress is going to be asking some questions, whether they ever get truthful answers.
It's always hard. It's always hard to have disagreements with your boss in public, right? So Hegseth did something. Trump said, no, I don't know who did this. Why don't you tell me? And now he's saying we're going back. One of the things I think is interesting is it feels like President Trump is just now starting to realize that Putin is just a bad actor.
Right. Well, let's talk about Utah teachers. They're getting some love right now with awards and a conference just for them, and Utah is showing up for teachers.
Yeah, so Utah's First Lady, Abby Cox, is holding today, it's her annual conference, and it's literally called Show Up for Teachers. Last night they held some awards. They were able to honor teachers who've made a difference. And of course, all teachers do, right? And that was one of the things they said is, I wish we could give one to every single teacher. And, one of the things I remember from the pandemic, and maybe you do as well, is that when everything kind of shut down, people were saying, we need to raise teachers' salaries to like $1 million, right? Because all of a sudden parents were having to have their kids at home and take over the end of the school year education for their kids. And then after that, it felt like there has been a shift away from supporting teachers, and now it feels like there's some animosity towards teachers in Utah. But Abby Cox has training as a special ed teacher. She's really been committed to this community since she became the First Lady of the state. And one of the ways that they do this is this annual conference for teachers.
I just had my 50-year high school reunion about 2 weeks ago, and it made me think about some of the teachers I had 50 years ago that still have an impact. I mean, really, really outstanding teachers. And you don't think about it at the time because you're just being a clown in high school, but you look back and go, man, I wish I could have given that man a hug. I wish I could have just seen him later on and said thank you. And I'm thinking of more than just one person, but if you're still in school, just appreciate your teacher. Bring him an apple.
Right. And there's a lot of conversation about education and parents' roles, and and we should all be team players. And look, I actually homeschooled my kids for a dozen years. When my kids transitioned into school, I was really grateful for people who were there to, deal with all the different issues that my kids had, and yet personalize their education too. And I have a daughter who's a teacher now, and I think she's great, right? And I want her to get a lot of love and not a lot of pushback.
We're lucky here in Utah. I mean, I'm a product of the public schools. My children are product of the public schools here in Utah, and we just haven't had issues. We've had great teachers. I mean, they're good lawyers too, and bad lawyers, and good journalists and bad journalists. But by and large, I think our teachers do a great job. They've been underpaid for years. I think that's now being recognized more than ever and appreciated more than ever. So the First Lady doing that is huge.
Here's our shout out to Utah's teachers.
Absolutely.
Thanks for all you do.
Okay, so we are celebrating an anniversary today.
I know.
And
Inside Sources with Greg and Holly.
It started a month ago today. Today's our 1 month anniversary.
That's right.
Hadn't thought of that or appreciated that until I saw you posted it this morning at like 6 o'clock. Hey, it's our 1 month anniversary. What other fun facts do we have today?
So I had somebody yesterday, because I do these little 1-minute videos at the end of the show to talk about what we talked about. And they like, where do you get these? Who makes up these days? Well, I get them from a website called nationaltoday.com. But today is Sugar Cookie Day. So it's National Sugar Cookie Day. Are you a fan of sugar cookies?
Absolutely. I don't like cookies. I
that
don't
is
like
so
chocolate
interesting.
chip. I don't like oatmeal. I hate pumpkin. But boy, I'll eat a sugar cookie any day.
They're one of my least favorites. So.
Oh, no. They're the best. I mean, too bad my wife's celiac, so we don't get them at home. But sugar cookies, they're my fave. That's my choice.
Yeah. So in your honor today, then you should stop by.
I'm going to go grab
cookie.
some. Yeah, I'm going to grab a box of them.
There's also a couple of things that are really interesting on our calendar for today. So on June 10th in 1868, the 14th Amendment was ratified. That's an important one that we've been talking about recently.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the birthright citizenship.
That's right.
Among other and to what I do is in a living, it's due process.
That's right.
It's probably one of the most important. Well, they're all important.
Super important, right? Super important amendment, 1868. It was ratified. So we also have on this day, we've talked about this person before, Ross Perot. So he ran as a presidential candidate he ran as an independent. Is that what we decided? Right. And he pulled enough votes.
He was associated with a party. It was the America First or something. We had the name of it. I think you're right. There was a name for the party.
He died on this day in 2019.
Oh, sad.
So, yeah. And then in 1877, we're going back again, the first Wimbledon tournament began. I had no idea that tennis was really that old.
And I think Wimbledon is going now.
It must be, right? That time of year.
That would be, interesting. All right. Well, happy anniversary, Holly. Well, let's shoot for 2 months.
Going another month, right?
All right.
So
when we come back, actually, when KSL Radio comes back, we will turn things over to Maria Chaleos. Today marks the 1-year anniversary since a 12-year-old West Haven boy died after being starved and abused for years. Now a state representative says she plans to rerun a bill meant to prevent cases like that from happening again. Midday with Maria Chaleos is up next. Stay with us on KSL News Radio.